I hope you feel as strongly as I do about how proud I am with the investment that we made. The way you have been able to leverage our local dollars and bring down the federal dollars is unprecedented. Congratulations, you've done a great job. I know we're just getting started and moving forward, but Bill, you never cease to amaze me and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been honored to serve as one member of a great team. I appreciate that. One final comment. These dollars, by and large, have stayed local. Our contractors local, our architects local. In working with OEV, we found a minority business enterprise and spent over $160,000 with my elite products. Princess has been fantastic. As a matter of fact, they just installed our laboratory benches. So the exciting thing for me, in addition to spinning up this opportunity, is the fact that these dollars have been spent. So I thank you on behalf of the community for your investment.
Okay, Mr. Lippman.
Appreciate your kind words.
Yes, hold on. A couple other commissioners have some comments.
Yes,
okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Keefe and then Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Lixon, you're not going to get away that easily. But the good news is you're doing a fantastic job. I appreciated the tour last time, early Friday morning after the last Blueprint meeting. And it's just an amazing facility. I've been in a lot of research buildings, and it is in a innovation park full of research buildings. It's just exactly what we need when it comes to developing private enterprise and research. I appreciate, I wouldn't get away with myself if I didn't note what we talked about a little bit about when you want people to graduate from your space into their own commercial space and how that's a challenge here, and that's something we could focus on when it comes to our economic development of making sure that we develop and give a pipeline for folks to graduate from their startup space in your lab to a commercial space to stay here locally. And I appreciate you planning and knowing what we need to do all the way from the beginning to the end, not just filling your building, but filling our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to echo the mayor's comments. Bill Lixon is an asset to this community beyond measure. So we're very fortunate to have you here. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I also, like the mayor, serve on the LCRDA and took a tour of the NFIL. If you haven't had a chance to tour it, please do so. It's incredible. You know, Leon County, Tallahassee are ranked #1 in terms of the emerging economy in our community. One way we're going to continue to rank high is because of exactly this investment here. And another point, if you get a chance, go to Alachua County and tour the Sid Martin Biotech Incubator. That incubator there was where the NFIL was 20 years ago. And they have kept to their mission. They've made investments. They've leveraged on the investments of the private sector. Don't hold me to the numbers, but I think they've generated $9 billion in economic development from that incubator. That is a perfect example of what the North Florida Innovation Labs will be 20 years from now. Different industries perhaps, but it's a great example. So if you get a chance to take a tour, the people there are very accommodating. They would love to show you what they're working on. It's a really exciting field, and I'm really thankful to Mr. Lixon and his team that they are bringing that to Tallahassee too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. Bill, I've not had the opportunity to tour yet, but I'm looking forward to it. You know, you explained this to me very early on in my tenure up here, and so I think it needs to be said that, you know, this is really the product of previous boards from what sits here now, and I think those people need to be commended. Those of you who are on this board then, I mean, this is the good stuff, all right? This is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to leverage our dollars, especially in this sector. And so the North Florida Innovation Labs is I'm going to brag about it, even though I didn't have anything to do with it. You know what I'm saying? That's really, really great work. I think it's a testament to your vision and your dedication to it. And everybody around here love on you all day long, but at the end of the day, those numbers don't lie. And that is what we should be thinking about around this table when we talk about economic development. How can we leverage our dollars? How can we multiply our dollars, even our Blueprint dollars? I know our staff does a good job of that. But this, when you talk about economic development, growing a sector, a tech sector, an innovation sector, taking advantage of the infrastructure we already have at the research park, at Innovation Park, this is the good stuff. So I just want to say thank you, but also thank you to all the predecessors on this board who got us there, and those of you around the table who were those people at the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Bill. Awesome job. I took I guess, unpermitted walk through the building. I just kind of walked in because it was open. And it is a extremely nice building. I even used the restroom. It was awesome. I was particularly impressed with the MWBE things that you did and the firms that you engaged. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was important for us and our entire project team to try to keep the dollars local. And this is a federal project, so as a federal project, the contractor was responsible for making sure that there was a certain percentage spent on minority contractors. The furniture, fixtures, and equipment is a separate bucket of money. So when we received that funding, we worked directly with OEV to see, and initially we did a cursory review and we didn't find a contractor that would be able to provide the furniture. And with OEV's help, we found an amazing company we were just unaware of. And our interior designer was unaware of it as well. So again, it's incredibly important to keep the dollars local and to make sure that all parts of our community benefit from this type of
Bill, was it mandated within the contracts or anything that you had going that you had to find a minority firm? to do anything?
No, it wasn't a requirement, but it's something we felt strongly about.
That is awesome. And that to me, these numbers are great. The things you're going to do in the future is absolutely awesome, but that the level of character that you have to implement that piece, that minority piece in there, but then take it a step further to try to find something local and to know where to go to OEV to find it, that's impressive. Thanks, Bill.
Well, I'm part of a great community, and I'm privileged to serve as the chair of the Alliance of Entrepreneurial Resource Organizations, and that's all three chambers, that's workforce, that's everybody, and so I'm honored to work with just a phenomenal community of entrepreneur resources, and I'm here to report that as a community, we have momentum, and that's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to be here. We appreciate it, and we certainly appreciate all you've done to grow our local economy, bringing in local federal dollars, and to support our students in our universities and institutions. And we know that more is to come, but
Thank you.
we appreciate
small
what.
part of a great ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, Mr. White. I believe we're now on the consent agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Has
Move
any
consent.
item? Okay, has any items been pulled from consent?
No, Madam Chair.
None, okay. So we've got a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Awesome. Hearing none, consent agenda passes. Now we're on our general business. The first item is ratification of today's budget workshop in any direction that has been provided by the board. Mr. White, are there any speakers?
No, there are only on number 6.
Okay, do you have an introduction for this item? What?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll just recap very briefly. At the budget workshop today, the recommended action, option 1, that was a staff recommendation, was approved, and this would ratify it. So this specific item, the recommended option is option 1, which is to ratify the actions taken by the IA board during the May 16th, 2024 fiscal year 2025 budget workshop.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Cox.
I move for option 1.
Thank you. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I want, for the record, this official meeting of Blueprint for the Scribner. to
Commissioner
please-
Proctor, pull your mic a little closer. We're having acoustics problems.
That the Scribner, please note, my opposition to this is based on the fact of the technical failures and the failure of my understanding of the airport gateway. The airport gateway has no definitive number, and the airport gateway has been approved for 82 million by this board, but continues to be set forth at 120 plus million by our staff. My inability to understand and explain $40 million gives me great pause. Secondly, that at today's budget workshop, there was disclarity with respect to questions posed by Commissioner O'Keefe, and that is to get a definitive number on what the project cost is projected to be. And I believe we're at 60% completion of design, but we were also told that we could not bifurcate the gateway and to suspend our funding for 25 and pushing it 26 or 7 for segment C, which would be called the new roadway. And it was my desire that we go forward with the Spring Hill part of the gateway, Airport Gateway, Spring Hill, Airport Gateway, New Road. And I was told that my motion was I forget the word, but it was not, so I am suggesting that I disagree with legal decision because it would not require substantial change to anything other than to move the project year back, and that in no way sought to alter this project. And then finally, to note that this commissioner continues not to see how the airport gateway goes through Stuckey Street and makes a right turn or across the street turn and on about around the hill. And it's a longer road, it's a new road, and I hold great suspicion as to its motivations. And I need for the record to reflect my opposition to this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be voting for this because it is ratifying what happened. I do also just want to note that I'm disappointed in the procedure and policies that was used to get to this budget. That is, lacks clarity or consistency, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept option 1. All those in favor, can we have a roll call vote? Let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
We're going to do a roll call with the acceptance. Each person say aye. I'm sorry.
Mayor Daley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matlow,
Nay.
Commissioner Porter,
Nay.
Commissioner Williams-Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Caban,
No.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Minor,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Keefe,
No.
Commissioner Proctor,
No.
and Commissioner Welch.
We'll wait for the result. It does pass. Thank you,
Madam Chair, can we get a
Commissioner
can we
Proctor.
get a numerical distinction of the passage? Was that a 3-2? What was that?
You want the analysis of the vote,
What was the vote count?
the vote count?
Yes, Madam Chair. So Commissioner Richardson is not in chambers, he is not here. So the weighted voting is adjusted due to his absence. So it would be a total count of 63 with a majority vote weighted would have to be 32 or higher. So we have 2 yays on the city side, that's a total of 14. Each yay vote is 7, counts for 7 as a weighted vote, so that's a total of 14. And then the yay votes on the county side, we have 4 votes there. Each one is weighted 5 points, so to speak, so that's 20. And when you add the 20 and the 14, the total is 34, and that exceeds the required 32. So it passes.
What was the balance that you did not factor and tell us? Of the nay votes, what was the weight of that?
The nay votes, 14 on the city side, and then 15 on the county side. So that would have been, that's 29.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you, Madam Attorney.
You're welcome.
Mr. White, our next general business item is reviewing the city and county and IA board's procedures, parliamentary procedures. Do we have any speakers on this?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Do you have an introduction for this item?
We do, Madam Chair. At the last meeting, the IA board directed staff to review the parliamentary procedures utilized by the IA board, those used by the Board of County Commissioners, and those used by the City Commission. In summary, the IA board uses Robert's Rules of Order in accordance with the agency bylaws that were adopted in 2001. The Robert's Rules governs debate, decorum, and motions made at IA board meetings. As part of this procedure, the blueprint attorney serves as the parliamentarian, and then there are a few places where IA board policy govern instead of Robert's Rules of Order. Those are specifically for the agenda format, weighted voting, commissioner remote participation, and quorum matters. So those are governed by IA board policy. Everything else is essentially governed by Robert's Rules of Order. When you look at the Leon County Board of County Commissioners, their parliamentary procedures are what we call simplified parliamentary procedures, and those are governed by the board policy 1-05. That's a comprehensive policy that covers quorum requirements, the order of business for the meeting, participation by absent commissioners, agenda format, invocation, timing for pulling items from the consent agenda, as well as voting requirements. Those are all outlined in policy 1-05. The policy specifically says that the county attorney serves as the parliamentarian at the board meetings. And it also states that in the absence of a rule of procedure as provided for in that policy, the parliamentarian shall refer to Robert's Rules of Order revised for guidance. So that's basically how the county commission operates using the simplified version of rules of procedure. The city commission also uses simplified parliamentary procedures with adopted policy 112. One key difference is that the city has a motion procedure chart. That's kind of a graphical chart that governs how motions are made and conducted at the city commission meetings. And under the city commission format, the city attorney serves as the parliamentarian. So those are the three governments and how they do parliamentary procedures. The recommended action on this item is option 1, accept the report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. White. Commissioners, I'd like to accept a motion.
So move.
Thank you. It's been moved and second to accept the report as presented. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Oh,
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, we do have discussion. I apologize. Commissioner O'Keefe, then Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we follow Robert's Rules of Order unless there is a policy or bylaw that conflicts. Am I understanding correctly? Okay.
for statute, rule of law. Sure.
Or Florida law, okay. Are there any other variations that we'd run into?
What do you mean by variations?
Well, if we look at Robert's Rules of Order and there's a policy or there's a rule in it, and there's nothing different in our bylaws or policies and nothing different in Florida statute, what other possible reasons wouldn't that apply?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to speculate on that. I mean, it depends on the issue. Obviously, when you look at voting, the IA board's voting procedures, weighted voting based on the bylaws. So obviously, that's not something that's addressed by Robert's rules. So those are exceptions, given the special nature of this board.
Gotcha. Okay. And just to make sure I got it right, with the specific policies and bylaws that we have already that are different are the agenda, the order of agenda preparation, things about quorum, weighted votes, and commissioner rote participation. Did I catch all the ones from your presentation?
I think that's all of the ones from the presentation.
Well, are those all the ones we have?
There may be more. I would have to just go policy by policy and pull out, but those are the ones that are critical when you look at how the county is set up, because the issue is meeting procedure. So there may be some other little nuances, like the county, for example, has procedures for invocation. Obviously, we don't have that because that's not something that we do here. There may be some other little nuances. I think what the presentation is trying to do is hit the highlights, the main topics and areas that are focused on meeting procedure and moving forward with the business of the board.
Thank you. Thank you. And my questions are, so I can fully understand what the rules are ahead of time before they come up with issues that matter to me, that matter to others, like earlier this meeting and last meeting. And so I only ask because I'm over here playing pretend law student between meetings, learning Robert's Rules of Order, so I know exactly what the rules are to follow when I'm trying to participate. And my perception is that so far I seem to have run into an alternate procedure or bylaw every time. Maybe my odds will get better now that we've had the presentation and I can understand which things are an exception. That's all. I just don't want to be surprised by more exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first question is, does the state of Florida require blueprint meetings to be governed by Robert's rule, and does it prescribe set forth its own standard of Robert's rules, of which we are forced to or demanded to comply?
Madam Attorney.
The state of Florida does not address the requirement that bodies adopt Robert's rules. Its requirement is subject to the bylaws that you have, which require Robert's rules.
Which of these, I'm not really persuaded or understanding of the comparison between the city and the county's Robert's rules. And if we're in this meeting, does either of these matter? Which is superior? On what events and votes, occasions will we go by the city's Robert's rules? And when are we going to use the county's Robert's rules? I mean, why are we looking at two Robert's rules? And is there one which this body has adopted that I'm just getting confused by all of this?
Madam Attorney, yeah.
I can answer that. So we were asked to review the three different bodies and the rules of procedure for each. This body does not operate under the rules of procedure that the county operates under, nor does it operate under the rules of procedure that the city commission operates under. This body operates under the Robert's Rules of Order, except for where there's a blueprint policy that addresses something specific. So we were just asked to review the three, and so we provided that information to you, but we're not trying to imply that this body operates anything other than what is in the bylaws and in policy.
So the city and the county's rules don't count in this room, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So the concern that we had was our parliamentarian issue, which for me is a staff person who's hired by Blueprint. Our board does not have an attorney. Our staff does. And I think some of this angst derives from the fact that all interpretations of everything that we decide is not only staff recommendation, but it's also staff's legal interpretation that dictates, tells us, blah, blah. We've had an independent counsel advising this board prior, but when the staff spends the money, when the staff, I'm trying to speak in the mic, Madam Chair, when the staff tells us what to spend, and when we vote for 82 million and staff said, no, we're gonna spend 124 million, when staff can come here and tell us we don't have a definitive number, and the staff says if you don't vote this way, this is a substantial change, and the staff says what parliamentary procedure, this is an amazing thing. So I don't need to hear about the city's rules and Robert's rules. It don't mean anything in here. The county's Robert's rules don't mean anything in here. Where we are is that our staff is telling us every legal, every financial, and every other suggestion, choosing the vendors and all of that, 100%, we're blocked out. That's the problem here, and this does not fix it. So I think, directors, the difficulty here is the fact that we have no advisement outside of staff in our counties. I'm sorry, Ms. Dawson, I'm sorry. Our Blueprints lawyer does not report to us. My understanding is she reports to Artie. That's a problem to me, and I find friction with this complex reality even today in being told by staff's attorney that a motion which I made, a substitute motion, the mayor's motion, Madam Chair, was somehow a substantial, and I disagree with that. It was not that, in my opinion, but again, we're wholly driven and guided and told and directed by everything from this staff, and that's wrong. And that needs to be corrected, and accepting this report does not correct that. We need a lawyer that advises this board. Staff should have a lawyer that talks to the staff, get the contracts out, review all the paperwork and all the technical blah, 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 blah. But for policy considerations, we all have an independent voice, and I'd like to, has a motion been made? Okay, I'd like to offer a substitute motion that this body retains, receives this report. Additionally, that this body acquires counsel that speaks and represented as an advisor to this body right here. Our staff's lawyer advises our staff, and I think that we should have and go back to the format which once upon a time we had. Otherwise, getting shot down, pushed down, shoveled down is a reality that we need to balance. You know, the balancing idea about government balance, and I don't think that the prosecutor is the defense attorney, and the prosecutor can't be all things the clerk and the jury and the judge too. And that's exactly what we got right here now. So those are my points. I make that motion, and I ask your support.
Second.
Thank you. Let me get Commissioner Matlow and then Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I support the motion. I think it would be appropriate to have board counsel as well. I did have a question on procedures based on this update as well as the substantial amendment policy. In a situation like today where we're absent a city commissioner, how does that affect the threshold for a substantial amendment?
It remains 4 and 5.
It remains 4. So under our current policy, it would be a unanimous support of city commissioners present if only 4 are present.
If there were only 4 city commissioners here, you would, for our substantial amendment process, it would require all 4
Okay.
vote on it favorably.
Thank you. And I'll raise that issue later, but it's absent. It substantially increases the bar, and I don't think we do that on other decisions where it's a simple majority. We need to be aware of. Thank you. Since we have such an important substantial amendment conversation that's been ongoing for a year with an absence of a commissioner, it may be wise to delay the public hearing or reschedule it once we start the public hearing to make sure all commissioners can have their voices heard. Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Commissioner Ratliff. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's like Groundhog Day. Every time we come together, we have these same conversations, and it takes up a lot of time where we just keep rehashing. We asked staff to bring back a report. They brought back the report. The option today is to accept the report. I made the motion to accept the report. And now we have something that has nothing really to do about the report. It's gone on to another issue. I think that the public wants us to focus and get some things accomplished. And I'm trying my best to do that. And sometimes that means just being quiet and just voting. And I'm trying to do that. But those who are watching get confused because it's like the soap operas. You can come back 3 months later and we're having the same conversation. You can catch up with Victor Newman and Nikki and them. You know, we're still in the same place. We're supposed to be moving things, making things happen. And I caution us that no matter how we try to change these things on the fly, when I came to Blueprint, there was an interlocal agreement in place. The current attorney was not there. The previous attorney, and with different, we're operating under the same rules that we've been operating under the 5, almost 6 years that I've been here. So I'm not understanding, if it ain't personal, I'm not understanding what we're trying to do here, because we've operated under these things and there have been unanimous votes on some of these projects that are now being rethought. If you're trying to build a tree house, if you don't hurry up and build it, the cost is going to go up. We just need to accept that and move on. Let's move expeditiously to get these projects done so it doesn't cost even more money, because we're dinking around with parliamentary procedure. Robert's Rules of Order is to maintain order, not to weaponize, not to control. The attorney didn't write Robert's Rules. She's given the interpretation to the chair. The chair makes the rule. We need to accept that our interpretation, our individual interpretation may differ. That's why it is written. And that's why there are people who are certified in Robert's Rule. They're certified parliamentarians. And I offer that if any one of us want to become one, we are welcome to go and get that training. But doing the Blueprint meeting is not where you get that training. We just need to make a ruling and keep the train moving. Last meeting, several of us were accused of leaving the meeting early. But what was not reported was that the meeting started at 3 o'clock. I left at 10:45 p.m. Is that early? No. That's just too long to have a discussion about parliamentary procedure. So, Commissioner Proctor, I love and support you, respect you, but I cannot support the current motion because I made a motion to accept the report because they did what we asked them to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams-Cox. We'll hear from the mayor and then, Commissioner Porter and then the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I just have a few questions. I did not see, for staff, I did not see in the Blueprint bylaws that the Blueprint attorney is the parliamentarian, whereas in the city's policies and the county's policies, the city attorney and the county attorney are listed explicitly as the parliamentarian.
Is that a question for?
Yeah, is it listed anywhere else? I didn't see it in the bylaws.
Or the attorney?
No, it's not listed.
Okay.
Correct?
I have only served for 3.5 years. Have we had other people serve as parliamentarians in the past?
The attorney.
Well, that was my question. Have we had other people, since that's not listed in the bylaws? Okay, my question was directed to staff. Okay, thank you. And Ms. Dawson, are you a certified parliamentarian?
No, I'm not certified
Okay.
as a parliamentarian. I do have a law degree. This past May, I have been a member of the Florida Bar for the past 28 years, and I have thoroughly reviewed and marked this book because serving as a blueprint attorney has been a tremendous opportunity to learn, and perhaps maybe even my future life, I can be a teacher and professor in Robert's Rules.
I want to be clear, that wasn't questioning your qualifications. It was raised that there are certified parliamentarians. I didn't even know that was a thing until Commissioner Williams-Cox brought that up, so I was just curious.
I think there's an association as well.
Okay. I'll just say that I don't think that we are having these discussions because it is personal. I think if we're listening to each other, there are very specific concerns that we can point to that are why we continue to have these conversations. So I don't want to dismiss that. I have those concerns. Some of my colleagues do as well. How we move forward is how we decide to move forward as a majority. I will say that I feel too like the application is sometimes inconsistent and confusing to me. Just earlier today, Commissioner Proctor made a substitute motion. He then withdrew that substitute motion. According to Robert's Rules of Order, that must have been rescinded formally by the person who made the second, which was Commissioner Matlow. That never happened. I don't think that matters, but as far as what we're expecting to the letter of the Robert's Rules and to the policy, I do think that we see inconsistencies, and that makes it difficult to move forward. So I don't think these concerns are unfounded or personal. We are all trying to do this work. I don't think anyone wants to stay here till 11 o'clock. No one is doing this for fun. There are serious concerns, and that's why this is being addressed today. So I want to say that on the record for those who are listening. I don't think this is petty. Having these procedures in place in a consistent way is how these meetings move expeditiously. That is one of the main goals of Robert's Rules of Order, is to protect the voices of the minority, but to, of course, make sure that the majority prevails and that things do move in an expeditious way. We've already settled this issue at our last meeting, so I won't harp on that point, but I think the structure of Blueprint is also why we are having these conversations over and over again. The board gives direction, and I don't know what happens to that direction sometimes, but between the IMC and whatever else, it's coming back to us not the way we asked for it, even when there is a majority vote. We settled that already, but I do think that those are two of the issues that result in the dysfunction that we're experiencing today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Porter. Mayor Daley, and then Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Nick, can you lean back so I can see the chair as I'm speaking? Diane, I can't see. Thank you. Madam Chair, I disagree respectfully with my colleagues on what's been said. First and foremost, set the record straight. This body has never had outside counsel, Bill. I think you're referring to CRTPA and Thornton Williams' law firm that served. But since the inception of Blueprint, we have always had inside counsel. That is institutional. We've always had inside counsel. Number two, the structure of IA has served this community well for 24 years. 24 years. 2 ballot referendums that have passed by a supermajority of this community. Over $1 billion of infrastructure projects over 24 years. This structure has served our community extremely well. Now, I don't think we have a form of government issue. We have personality issues, and I respect that. I respect that there might be members of this board that might not think that we have proper representation. And if that's the case, then I encourage you to step up to the plate, make a motion for no confidence. And if the majority of this board decides that that's the route to go, then we'll go that way. Otherwise, let's drop the issue. This whole idea, by the way, and again, It's an inappropriate substitute motion. The motion that should be on the table is to bring an agenda item back if the majority wants to actually discuss hiring counsel for this board outside the council that we have, with a timeline in place, a budget in place for advertisement, allowing us to know which HR is going to do the first vetting of rounds of applicants that come in, how we're going to actually do. We don't just hire. We don't just make a motion to hire. So if the majority of this board is interested, then I would encourage the maker of the substitute to put it in the proper form and have an item come back. I do not support the substitute motion. I am pleased with the direction of this board. The majority seems to be pleased with the direction of this board. And I think that this issue is moot. We should just take a vote on the substitute, then vote on the original, and let's move on to the next item. I do want to comment on what Commissioner Williams-Cox, the vice chair, said. And I do agree with her, and I think that, Chair, you agree, and I think everybody agrees. When we start meetings at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're going strong at 10:45 at night, that does not serve the public. That does not serve us well. When there's no dinner break and everybody is, hangry and tired, that is not, I don't think it's appropriate. I don't. We have families. We have outside obligations. When we schedule meetings from 3 to 6, personally, I expect the meetings to be done when we say they're going to be done. We used to have a rule when I served on the county commission that there was a defined end time, and if the board was to go past that defined end time, a motion had to be made and approved to extend. Bill, remember we used to do that when we would sit in there till midnight with Commissioner Ratcliffe and we'd have to make motions to approve. But this unending time to a meeting does not serve this body well. Now, if we are planning on having an all-day meeting, we should start at 9 o'clock in the morning. And there should be defined breaks for a bite to eat or whatever the needs may be. But I'm telling you that I agree with Commissioner Williams-Cox. When we start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 9 o'clock at night, 10:45 at night, I don't think we're making solid public policy decisions. I think people's tempers get short, and I think we should keep that in consideration, all of us. But for the purposes of right now, my personal opinion, I am comfortable with the formation. It has served this community well for 24 years and over $1 billion worth of infrastructure. We do not need outside counsel to represent this board. We need some leadership to step up. If you disagree with our counsel and propose a motion in no confidence, and if the majority agrees, then we go that direction. But hiring 2 attorneys is just a waste of money. I truly believe that. I'll be not supporting the substitute motion, but supporting the original motion, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I want us to keep the main thing. I don't want to argue. I want us to start arguing points about different things here as much as I do. I want us to come to a solution. The problem is, I don't even think the problem is the attorney. I think she does a good job of interpreting Robert's Rules of Order and keeping us in order. What we talked about last time, and I think I might have said it last time, and the reason, Commissioner Proctor, the city and the county way of work is in there is because either we're going to go by Robert's Rules of Order or we can go by something different. We can specify what that looks like. That's the direction. If you can put 10 people there, 10 different people there, and they're going to look at it and say, if this Robert's Rules of Order, she's read out where she's coming from, they're going to interpret it the same way, or it might be a little bit different. But the fact of the matter is, we're bound in this meeting by Robert's Rules of Order. So I think change the focus a little bit from whether our attorney's competent, who I think is very competent, or whether we need to have 2 attorneys, one for us and one for staff. I think we need to talk about what governs our meetings, which is Robert's Rules of Order. If we want to change them, I think it's an agenda item to come back to us that talks about different options that we could have, or if we're comfortable with the city or the county way of work, that we say, hey, we want to move towards the city or the county way of work, and we move in that direction. But a lot of what we're talking about now is, well, this didn't happen, and I feel like that it's shaded towards staff, and the attorney is doing this and doing that. No, we have right now opportunity to make a decision if we want to move away from Robert's Rules of Order. If we decide to stay with Robert's Rules of Order, I ask us all to respect this woman and the job that she has to do and the interpretations that she makes, in the fact that she's in probably the toughest position of all of us, because she has to tell us no on things that book says. Not what she thinks, it's the way she interprets that book. So again, we're going to move forward Robert's Rules of Order, I ask that we at least respect the person that we've asked to interpret it. I'm willing to entertain us moving away and doing something else because it's not anything the city or the county does, but can we kind of structure the conversation around whether or not we're going to move in that direction? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Maddox.
Point of information.
Commissioner O'Keefe, and then to Commissioner Caban. I'm trying to get commissioners I haven't heard from on the issue. Remember, commissioners, we have a 5 o'clock public hearing as well.
Super brief point of information.
Yes, sir.
Just looking up some of our history for reference, we paid, a quick search, in 2016, Blueprint paid $35,000 for outside legal services. That does not include bond counsel. So we have paid outside counsel for something in the past. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe.
Madam Chair, on point, though, because that was a direct, in response to what I said. Let's be clear. That was outside legal counsel on projects. That is not the same as retainer of counsel. We have inside counsel. We have always had inside counsel since the beginning of Blueprint. That does not mean that we do not hire outside counsel for specific issues. But let's not split hairs and confuse the public. We have always had inside counsel.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Mayor. Couple of comments. Commissioner Caban, and then Commissioner Porter, and then Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I agree with Director Williams-Cox. I know we have hashed this out already. I'm going to support Commissioner Proctor's motion just because I can't, in good faith and good conscience, not vote on something that's on the floor that I agree with just because we have already talked about it. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think the reason why it keeps coming up is because there's a sense of frustration amongst our colleagues on here. An example of it is, a direct example is it from earlier today. I think I would be personally less frustrated if the opinion of our parliamentarian was more consistent. Like today was a perfect example. In last fall's budget workshop meeting, we were able to discuss and change budget amounts on certain projects. And then in today's meeting, we said that it was not proper procedure and we could not do that. So for me personally, I'm a little frustrated with the lack of consistency. If we had more consistency, I would be okay with it. One thing I also just want to point out is I think it's weird that this board is structured differently than the city and the county. We have two governments that work very well for the people of Leon County and the city of Tallahassee. The county administrator and the county attorney, they both serve at the will of our board, and the structure here is a little different. And from my understanding also, this current IA structure that we currently operate now is different than the structure on the first original blueprint. It's been amended and restated multiple times now, so the structure is different going back from the 2005 to 2010. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Caban. Commissioner Porter, then Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Commissioner Proctor has been waiting, but I'm happy to.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think Commissioner Proctor was before me if you wanted to take him first, but it's.
Well, I'm trying to take Commissioner I haven't heard from. I will get to Commissioner Proctor as well.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to add as well that I would be, if we want consistency across the board with what works at the city and the county, I'm open as well to going to a modified Robert's Rules of Order as we do there. Even just now, the mayor said on point, but didn't raise a parliamentary procedure question. I mean, that's what point of order means. It doesn't mean let me correct you or give my input. That was not enforced and has never been enforced, I believe. So, I mean, that's all part of this. If we really want to do Robert's Rules of Order, that's part of it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Matlow, then Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to address all the issues. I think the problem we face at Blueprint is we're used to when a majority makes a decision, that's the way our agency goes. That doesn't happen at Blueprint because of our structure, because of the folks at this table don't work for us. We have a shadow IMC alter ego that's really running the agency. So what we've seen over the years is, just earlier, we saw a recommendation to change the airport gateway budget after this board had made a decision. Last year, we made a decision to have more meetings so they didn't run until 11 o'clock at night, specifically because they were taking too long. We got an item brought back in consent to reduce this year to only having 4 meetings, and then we ran into the exact same problem we had when we made the decision. So there's consistent staff input that's contradictory to what the majority of this board decides, continuing to ask us to change our previous direction. That's a problem, and we get to these points where meetings are going to 11 o'clock at night. We foresaw that because we've been doing it for years. These meetings have been going to 11 o'clock at night. We added more. All of a sudden, they didn't go so late. We never had a problem getting a quorum before that. So I think to act like people are trying to rehash the same conversations is disingenuous, because what people are saying is, we want a functional agency like we have at the city, like we have at the county, where when this board makes a decision, there's a majority, that becomes what moves forward. But to continue to have to come back and fight the same battle over whether it's how many meetings or how much we're funding the airport gateway, when this board didn't decide to change direction, will continue to be frustrating. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sir.
Mayor Daley, you're correct. If we had $1 for every time we went past 11 o'clock at the county commission, we probably could go bowling tonight or something like that. If it's, is it staying? Yeah, we've been a lot of late meetings. That's why I thought you was conditioned to stay at 12 o'clock. You know, got conditioning. I think that Susan Dawson is a very good attorney, and I have no quorums, and I've never suggested. I personally never suggested that any issue of competence, whoever used the C word, that's not my quorum at all with Ms. Dawson. I like Ms. Dawson. She's has a thoughtful, reflective, quick responses. She's decisive. She's not nilly-willy, and all the right things. So I want Ms. Dawson to know I ain't got nothing personal at all against you. The Board of County Commission has an attorney, and that attorney reports to our board. Vince Long does not have an attorney sitting there representing him and staff. He does not have an attorney that reports to him, but you report to Artie. The City Commission has a council that reports to the City Commission. That attorney does not report to Reese Gold, and Reese Gold does not have an attorney that represents the staff. That's what I'm saying. As a county commissioner, we have an Artie, an administrator, and we have a county's attorney that reports to our board and represents our board. And I would not support Vince Long strapping up and coming in all lawyered down at a meeting, arguing against and fighting against or counseling against the board. I'm frustrated with that. Ms. Dawson, that's not your fault. This is structure, and you're doing what your interpretation of your job, and that's perfect. What bothers me is we have no one that when we vote $82 million for a project, who is the parliamentarian to check the staff that they're out of order to come back with $124 million? Artie, who's checking that? So we come to a meeting and unleash your staff lawyer against this board and what we have voted for. Open, democratic, publicly noticed, all the other aberrations of a proper democratic meeting in the capital city across the street from the state capitol here in Florida. We do those things. But when our staff manipulates numbers, when our staff does not bring back the project that we have approved, and there is no parliamentarian checking them, and we get here and we get shut down, where's the accountability? That to me is problematic. And we don't have this same parliamentarian checking staff and moves that are being made, all of those things. Those are frustrating points. I believe staff, and y'all need to hear me because I try to, remain a good commissioner, but I'm tired of y'all. I'm really needing to tell you that when I vote for something and the majority of that vote says that this is what that number is, to me, it's a substantial change. When you come back at 50% over, and that's not what we said. So there's a double standard in here that you can substantially move the lines, substantially move project numbers. But I talk about let's hold that up and let's maybe move it to next year and get some other financial secured. Then I'm making a substantial change that has to have procedural this and procedural that. That's not fair for y'all to be able to do what you want to do. And we can't make a change. I mean, we can't defer. And we're not taking money out of the thingy, the new road. We're saying that leave that as a placeholder. We want some clear conclusions about it. Even we'd like to have a tight and right number on what that bottom line is. And I don't think that I am incompetent, and I don't think that my colleagues are hostile to a process, that we're hostile to the staff, that we're on bended knee begging and pleading our staff. We're pleading because we're governing and we're seeking with clarity the bottom line numbers, and we're not getting that definitive number. And if something is wrong with that, if loving that desire to be clear on what we are approving is wrong, I don't want to be right. And I'm not going to be, because we deserve, and what we're asking for is transparency from you. What we're asking for is accountability from you. And what we say in this room, it ought not go behind our backs and swap out, and then the parliamentarian comes here and slaps our hands every time we try to maintain that transparency. That's what I'm saying to y'all, and I ain't changing at all.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Maddox, I know you have your name plate. Is it 1 minute? We really need to call the vote. 1 minute. Go ahead.
I want us all to understand, because there's been a lot of talk about the 82 million in the cut to that. Madam Chair, may I address, please? Staff?
Mr. White.
Yes. We capped the cost of the project at 82 million, correct? Did we change the scope at the same time?
You did not.
In order for us to get to where we're trying to go, or where we were trying to go then, you have to change the scope and cap at 82 million, because we're going to take off C, we're going to do A and B. A and B, the cost was 82 million, correct? I believe that was the exact cost of that segment at the time, right? I think that's how we came up with the number 82 million.
I know at that budget workshop, the proposed budget was 118 million. So even at the time the IA board made the decision, we were very clear at that time that the cost estimate for that project was 118 million.
All right, that's okay. What I'm saying is, at the time, when Commissioner Caban or whoever made the motion, they made the motion based off the fact that if you cut C out, that it was going to cost 82 million to do the other two, but we didn't change the scope. So, in order for us to get to where we're trying to go, it came back that we needed to change the scope, and it's been a thing all year of us, of the folks who wanted to get to 82 million, trying to change the scope. So we came back today. If it had been presented, because I think Commissioner Proctor's motion is that we would approve everything, but we would take out segment C of the project. That was the motion on the floor, correct? Yes. That was a motion on the floor. That motion on the floor is a substantial amendment because it takes out a portion of a project. It doesn't speak specifically to a dollar amount. If he had come back and said, we still want to cap at 82 million, would that have been in order without taking out the scope? Yes. It would have. It's not them. It's us and our understanding of how to get done what we're trying to get done. That's all you got to do. If you really want to keep it at 82 million, all you had to do is come back and say, cap it at 82 million. No, you didn't. That's not what was today. You could, if it was on, I'm not done. I'll let you talk.
Commissioner Proctor.
I'll let you talk.
Yeah.
On the agenda today, it recommended 124 million, 118 million, right? If we wanted to change that, we didn't have to go with that. We could have came back and said that we want to go back and cap it again at 82 million. But we didn't. What we said instead was, we want to take segment C out, and that is a substantial amendment because that is tied specifically to the project. So it's really an understanding of how do you get done what you're trying to get done. Now look, it's process for me. It's process for me. It's a way to get done what you're trying to get done. Now it would have been two-step because you could have capped it in the budget at 82 million, and then you could have came back to this meeting and asked for the substantial amendment again, which would have been in order, correct, Madam Attorney?
During director discussion, to
That would have been-
initiate the process.
That would have been in order, and you get to where you're trying to go. Again, it is the process. I said it before, I said it again. We are Robert's Rules of Order. If we want to change that, we can change that in a way that we can do some of the stuff that y'all are trying to do. But y'all also focused on the fact of, well, this 82 million, and staff came back and did this. Staff did what they were supposed to do. We were on the original scope. We didn't change the scope. They had to come back with the price that would be accommodating to the scope that we had instructed them to do, and we hadn't changed. So again, it was a two-step process, but it could have gotten done. We just didn't figure out a way to get it done in the budget meeting and then come back and get the same thing done in the regular meeting. So again, I'm gonna say it one more time. This 82 million thing, that's on us. That's on us because we didn't ask the right questions and we didn't make the right motions. If we want to change the process,
Commissioner
if we want to change the process of using Robert's Rules of Order, we can change the process of using Robert's Rules of Order so some of this stuff does not become an issue for us. But I just explained the way that you could have got from point A to point B to point C if the motion is passed. That's all I got, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank
Call the
you.
question.
Well, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. We are not at Board of Directors discussion at this point. The item that's on the table is the informational item as far as the rules and procedures for the county and the city. We have a substitute motion on the table. The question has been called by Commissioner Cox, which means no more discussion on this. I'm going to call for a vote, and the vote is to accept the report. The substitute motion is to accept the report by Commissioner Proctor,
There was not
and
a-
then exclude, I believe, exclude segment C. Am I correct?
Well,
The substitute motion.
Just for a second, Madam Chair. So there was a call of the question, correct?
Right.
Yes.
And that was by Commissioner Williams Cox?
Yes.
Who was the second?
There was no second. Nobody second.
Okay, well, we need a second.
Okay. There was a call for the question by Commissioner Williams Cox. Is there a section, which means we vote with no more discussion?
Second.
Thank you. It was second. Now we have to go for a vote on that motion.
Yes,
Correct.
yes, Madam Chair, and it's a two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds vote, and we'll do a roll call, Madam Clerk. All of those in favor?
Call the question.
Yeah, on the call of the question. Right. Two-thirds vote on the call of the question. We'll do a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Daley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matlow,
Nay.
Commissioner Porter,
Nay.
Commissioner Williams Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Caban,
No.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes?
Commissioner Maddox,
Yep.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Keefe, Commissioner Proctor,
Nope.
and Commissioner Welch.
Fails.
Okay, so the call to question fails. Commissioner Caban.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Maddox, you know I respect the hell out of you, but I want to just be very clear so we're on the same page. What happened in Commissioner Proctor's previous motion was he did not try to remove segment C, he tried to change the funding on segment C. So it was a budgetary motion, and it was no different than what we had in the fall workshop, and the opinion of the parliamentarian changed. I think that is the consistent frustration is that the opinion of the parliamentarian is not consistent. And my question is this, is no one in here, if there was a motion on the table in our county commission, none of us would change the structure of our bylaws to have our attorney report to the county administrator. Like, no one would do that. And so right now, I think the frustration is like, we clearly want the structure, I'm sorry, some of us want the structure to change so that the parliamentarian reports to the board of directors. I think that's what it comes down to. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Caban. And then again, I believe, and then Commissioner Proctor, I believe when we get to board discussion, this can be properly raised as well. Commissioner Proctor. You yield? Okay. All right. The motion on the floor is the substitute motion. Commissioner Proctor's substitute motion, am I correct? Madam Chair, okay. And we can have a roll call vote. All those in favor.
I'm sorry, before.
Let her respond.
I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair, but before we have the roll call vote, can you repeat the motion?
Commissioner Proctor moved acceptance of the report, but to exclude. Yes, he did. Acceptance of the report, but to exclude, I believe you said segment C. Repeat your motion.
That was from the workshop.
That was the workshop. Okay,
That
what
was a
was your motion
workshop
here?
motion. If I could do that one, I would rather do that one.
We can do it at director's
Take
discussion.
advantage.
But, repeat your motion.
I want to ask Scrivener, do you have what I said? Because I can't remember.
The motion that I have written is accept the report and retain an attorney that advises the IA board.
All right. Now,
Accept the report and what?
an attorney, secure an attorney that advises us, but I'm pondering whether or not Commissioner Caban's comment is a more suitable suggestion, and that is to redirect Ms. Dawson to report to the board and not to Artie, is what I heard you, is that what I heard you say?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Hold on just a minute. Let him finish, please.
So,
Go ahead,
so
Commissioner.
I'm somewhat, if Commissioner Caban is going to offer that as I withdraw my motion if you want to offer a substitute motion, Commissioner Caban. Otherwise, my question was, my motion is theoretic, that this board accepts this report and this board does all it can, quick, fast, and in a hurry, to secure a lawyer to advise our board, legal counsel.
Yeah, that was the motion.
That was my motion, substitute
Accept the
motion.
report and move.
And secure legal counsel.
Have an attorney to represent the board. That was the motion.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, for clarity, please. I made the motion for the acceptance of the report. And based on the discussion that was had after, it was a long discussion that Commissioner Proctor had. I did not hear his motion include the acceptance of the report and the hiring of a lawyer.
It did.
So I just need clarification.
It did.
I'm just trying to, it was a long discussion. I may have gotten lost.
Yes, ma'am. I have, your original motion was accept the report. It was seconded by, I have Commissioner Minor, but then I have a substitute motion from Commissioner Proctor that was seconded by O'Keefe to accept the report and retain an attorney.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
Absolutely.
for that clarification.
Okay.
And Madam
Are we
Chair,
all on the same page? All right, Mr. White.
just for clarification, so So kind of 2 points. The first one would be we would need to bring an agenda item back to this IA board and not without, I mean, just based on the direction, we couldn't just hire an attorney out of nothing. So we would need to actually bring back an agenda item that outlines the process. But I'll also clarify that we've addressed this issue before. We've had an agenda item that comes back that talks about the organizational structure of Blueprint. Very clearly said that the interlocal agreement does not contemplate any staff reporting directly to the IA board. So we've already provided the information that to do that, you would need to amend the interlocal agreement for this body. We've covered that, we've addressed that. If that's what the will of the IA board is, then the city commission and the county commission need to amend the interlocal agreement. It's the same thing we said previously. This is the same process. It would be, so we could bring an item back, but it would be basically exactly what we told you, is we would have to amend the interlocal agreement, and that's action by the city commission and action by the county commission.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
Commissioner O'Keefe.
Is the current motion in good order?
Just needs to be some clarification. I think Mr. White is correct. An agenda item would need to come back to describe scope. Who would this outside counsel respond to? What's the scope of their duties? What's the limit of their duties? What is the cost? There is not a requirement to do a competitive solicitation for legal services. That doesn't mean that we cannot do that. We can certainly do that if that's the will of the board. But I think there are still a lot of details in terms of process and what it is, if this does pass, what the board would want this outside counsel to do in terms of service. So that would be baked into the agenda item that comes back to you, so you can give us direction on how to do it. Put out an RFP, interview 3 firms, local firms, firms outside of the area. It runs the gamut, but we do need more specificity than acquire counsel.
And would that specificity be appropriate if the motion passes and then it comes back, or should it be included in the motion as far as what you all
I think
agree?
what we can do, because, I just said quite a bit there, is put that together, if it does pass, for the board so that they can decide, okay, this is the direction we want to give staff. There are other things that may need to be considered as well that we can't think of in the moment here sitting at the table. And, it just needs to be done so that we don't come back to this over and over again if it does pass.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you asked me that question, and we've got clarification from the scrivener, I add one additional point that the school board has independent counsel represented by a local firm. School board has been represented by a couple firms over the years. I've in Osley for many years, and now I believe Pittman. And I think that when you have, I don't think that the Rocky Handle superintendent has a counsel that reports to him. I think that the school board has a counsel that report to them. And I think that the model of the school board is more apt to what this board, some members of our board are crying out for. That's that arrangement and that balance, detached and not staff, status, lawyer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. So is your motion for then an agenda item to come back?
Yes, ma'am.
Then, okay. The attorney says it's proper. Okay.
For clarification.
Okay, Commissioner Maddox, briefly, and then Commissioner Matlow.
Again,
We have a 5 o'clock.
Thank you. I just want
here.
to go on record as saying again, about the 5th time, changing the attorney does not change anything. Even if the attorney reports to us, they're still bound by Robert's Rules of Order. Changing what we're governed by during the meeting changes what whoever sits in that seat has to go by to give us ruling on what we're asking for. I still say we look at, if you really want to change things, we look at what governs the meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Matters. Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want, and I'm fine with an item coming back, but I just want to be clear on my intentions if this does pass. Previously on items like affordable housing, we passed it, we get an item coming back, and it recommends don't do it. I think if this passes affirmatively, what the expectation would be the process of hiring would come back for approval, not with a recommendation saying you shouldn't do it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Matlow. And let me just say this, we're going to vote. I have all confidence in our attorney, Susan Dawson. I think she's a great attorney. I think she interprets Robert's Rules of Order just straight across the board. I don't think it's any particular biasness or favoritism towards staff or anybody else. And I think any other attorney sitting in that place would do the same thing. I don't have, and I just want to say this on the record, I'm going to vote for Commissioner Proctor's motion primarily because I want us to put this to rest, put it to bed, because it's inhibiting what we are supposed to be doing as public servants here on the IA board. So I will support his motion so it can come back. We can look at the costs, ramifications, what have you. But I believe we've got a great attorney that is advising us on what's proper, what's improper. And just because we don't like it, I don't think that's grounds to attack her or to attack her opinion. So having said that, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Daley?
No.
Commissioner Matlow?
Aye.
Commissioner Porter?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Cox?
No.
Commissioner Caban?
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings?
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox? Commissioner Minor?
No.
Commissioner O'Keefe?
Yes.
Commissioner Proctor?
Yes.
And Commissioner Welch?
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. White, is there anything further in this segment?
No, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, what was the vote?
Thank you.
What
Okay,
happened?
can you give us the vote?
Okay, so with Commissioner Richardson not being here, we're absent one director. Commissioners Matlow and Porter voting in favor, total of 14. Voting in favor on the county side, Commissioners Caban, Cummings, O'Keefe, and Proctor, for a total of 20 on the county side, 20 and 14, 34. The threshold is 32, so it passes. You want the nays as well?
Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner Proctor? Thank you. So at this time, Commissioners, we will adjourn this portion of our meeting until, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair.
One thing.
Since we're heading into the public hearing and then the director discussion items afterwards, I would ask my colleagues that when we get to the director discussion, let's not make it another meeting that takes us beyond 7 o'clock in the evening. Because this is already taking more time than it probably should have. So let's be considerate of our staff. We have to stay here as long as we're here, and it's not fair to them. So let's try to say what we need to say, do what we need to do, and let's call it a night. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams-Cox. We're adjourned until 5 o'clock. we still got maybe 30.
Madam Chair, let the record reflect that Commissioner O'Keefe, myself, and Commissioner Porter are on time. Let the record reflect we are on time.
Yep.
And Commissioner Williams-Cox?
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry, Commissioner Williams-Cox, Madam Vice Chair. Slap me on the wrist, I'm sorry.
Good evening, everyone, commissioners, and those visitors that are here. Welcome to our 5 o'clock public hearing. It's our second public hearing on the proposed substantial amendment to add affordable housing land acquisition to the Blueprint Infrastructure Program. So at this time, Mr. White, do we have any speakers?
Yes. Our first speaker is Max Epstein, followed by Reverend Robert Gibbs, then Robert Doyle. Name and address for the record, please.
Can you tell me how many speakers we have?
Eight.
Okay, we have 8 speakers, so we're going to try to stick closely to the 3-minute.
I won't take 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Epstein.
Appreciate it. Max Epstein, 1001 San Luis Road. I'm here to support this motion, the substantial amendment, primarily because it's an if there is money available. I think this is extremely important, and we have projects that are well over $100 million over budget. And if we've been focusing on these issues, the affordable housing, rather than the airport gate or the Northeast Gateway and all that other stuff, maybe our community would be a little bit better. I also wanted to mention it's important, since there are discussions of the airport gateway that are going through, that will be removing housing. I'd like to remind this board that a resolution was passed years ago to replace housing 1-for-1 that was demolished. And I also think that the people that are going to be affected by the airport gateway need to be notified as soon as possible. Also a reminder that FAMU Way, while an excellent project that I supported, it demolished over 100 units of housing. And these are mostly affordable housing units. And the Blueprint received CDBG funding, which specifically requires the replacement of affordable housing 1-for-1. I'm not sure how they got around that. But I'm here to support the motion. And also, if we want to have civil meetings, we need to go back to having 8, not 4. The staff had brought back an increase to 8 years ago. We have economic development projects that have to wait 3 months, 4 months now, September, to be reviewed. If there's an issue and it has to come back, that's 6 months. And if we want to have civil meetings, we need to meet more. Do we really think that this board can get through all of these issues in 12 hours per year? If we're going to stick to the 3 to 6, do we really think that Blueprint can make decisions with a 12-hour time frame? So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein.
Our next speaker is Reverend Robert Gibbs, followed by Robert Deal, then William Fallon. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Reverend Dr. Robert Gibbs. I live at 6040 Duck Call Court in Tallahassee. I am a retired United Methodist minister, a member now of Trinity United Methodist Church down the street, and a member of the Affordable Housing Committee of Capital Area Justice Ministry. My colleagues and I are here this afternoon again to urge each member of the IA board to demonstrate a commitment to tackle the extreme shortage of rental housing that over 16,000 severely housing cost burdened families with very low and extremely low incomes can afford. We're not here with charts and graphs and statistics today. We've covered some ground at the previous IA board meetings. Commissioners' comments then and in discussions we've had with all but a couple of you show that most understand the challenge and what needs to be done. Majorities of both commissions have acknowledged that this is a crisis in our community and our community must confront by voting 2 previous IA board meetings to bring the proposal here to formal public hearing. We all recognize that the new project will be at the back of the line. We all recognize that there's no certainty of any funding of consequence will become available anytime soon. But as Citizens Advisory Committee member Byron Green said on May 2nd, this proposal would open the door to begin to address this issue, this need. And we're here to ask to take that first step, to initiate a community commitment to address this crisis that falls disproportionately on people of color in our community. We ask that you open the path to addressing this inequity by voting yes to amend the Blueprint interlocal agreement to add project number 30 to purchase land for affordable rental housing projects that include units for families with very low and extremely low incomes. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of a beloved community. His vision included critical mass of committed people, community where people share in the wealth of the earth, where poverty, hunger, homelessness are not tolerated, and where racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice are replaced by an all-inclusive spirit. Let us work together to build that beloved community. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Robert Dial, William Fallon, and then Reverend James Houston. Name and address for the record, please.
Got a frog with me here. Got to keep it under control. Greetings. My name is Robert Dial. I live at 2394 Carefree Cove. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tallahassee and co-chair of the CAJM Affordable Housing Committee. As has been the case in the past, your agenda packet today fails to document the problem that is the focus of this initiative. It merely recites what has been done in the past, namely the IA Board's revision to the Blueprint real estate policy and the assertion that the city and county have made affordable housing a very high priority and dedicated millions of dollars to support programs, policies, and efforts to do so. CAJM has documented without refutation that none of the city's or county's affordable housing programs are explicitly focused on rental housing or on rental housing for very low and extremely low income households. All but one of the existing city and county programs are in fact focused on households with 100 to 80% of the area median income, and most of them are targeted at owner-occupied housing rather than rental housing. Mayor Daley summarized the situation very clearly at the June 24th, 2023 City Commission Budget Workshop when he said, "I don't think any of us disagree of the need for low and very low income housing. I don't think any of us disagree that we need more product. We have to come up with ways to incentivize developers to build that new product." Mayor Daley also said, quote, "I think we're expected as leaders to think creatively," at which point he proposed that the Blueprint IA Board consider doing so with projected increases in Blueprint economic development revenues, which he suggested could be the source of even more than the $5 million requested by CAJM at that time. We subsequently learned that the projected OEV revenues were not really that robust and that the current OEV policies would have required major amendments to be the sources of funding for an affordable housing initiative. And the IA Board subsequently voted to pursue funding through the infrastructure fund rather than the OEV fund, and that's why we're here today. Mayor Daley concluded his remarks saying, "It's our responsibility to think as creatively as we possibly can
30
to
seconds.
tackle this issue. We're asking each of you to act on that admonition, to demonstrate your commitment to addressing this crisis by opening a path forward toward building the beloved community and voting yes to amend Blueprint Interlocal Agreement to add Project 30. Thanks very much."
Next is William Fallon, followed by Reverend James Houston, then Tara Boyder. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Bill Phelan. I live at 3941 Long and Winding Road. I'm a member of United Church in Tallahassee and a member of the CAJM Affordable Housing Committee. We are here today to ask you to demonstrate that you are serious about initiating a community commitment to address this crisis. We ask you to set aside concerns about how the project might get politicized, or how it might upset the status quo, or how exactly it would work. Any issue that requires an elected official to make a judgment about what is right or wrong for the public good is political. Some people will agree, others will disagree. That is your job. As for upsetting the status quo, adding a project that is explicitly at the end of the queue poses little risk to the status quo, unless the status quo means ignoring the thousands of essential workers in our community who struggle to pay rent and care for their families. Staff has muddied the issues. On the one hand, they state correctly that this project would be added to the end of the IA board's prioritized list of projects. But then they raise the specter that somehow that priority would be undermined when they say using sales surtax funds for affordable housing land acquisition ahead of any other blueprint infrastructure projects would result in insufficient funds to complete the approved blueprint infrastructure projects. Both the technical committee and the community advisory committee have parroted this concern, but this concern is baseless. CAJM has made it clear we do not advocate taking any money from existing funded projects. As for working out the details, that will be up to the IA board to define policy parameters and to direct staff to work out the mechanics. This is being done very successfully in Pinellas County, and our local experts and practitioners assured us that it can be effective here. We have sent board members a schematic and description of that program on Tuesday. We have hard copies for you today. We are asking each of you to demonstrate your commitment to addressing this crisis by opening a path forward
30 seconds.
Toward building beloved community and voting yes to amend the Blueprint Interlocal Agreement to add project number 30. Thank you.
Next speaker is Reverend James Houston, followed by Tara Boyder, then Reverend Sylvia Jones. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend James L. Houston. I reside at 3113 May Road, and I attend Bethel AME Church. I'm a member of the Capital Area Justice Ministry. On April 16th, at our Nehemiah action, 6 members of this board committed to taking the first step on the path to addressing the affordable rental housing inequities in our community. Those commissioners are County Commissioners Minor, O'Keefe, and Proctor, and City Commissioners Matlow, Porter, and Richardson. Their commitments were met with enthusiastic applause by the over 740 people that were there from our 17 congregations and of the community. He emphasized living has a real point of order to pursue possible that makes it important to pursue every possible option. She led the way by making motions at the November and February IA board meetings to initiate the interlocal agreement amendment process. Commissioner Richardson demonstrated his support by seconding Commissioner Porter's motion to initiate the public hearing and vote on the proposed amendment. He has stated many times that affordable housing has been a top priority for him since joining the City Commission. Commissioner Minor has acknowledged that the need is great And he said that an infrastructure project is a solid step in the direction we need to go on this issue. Commissioner O'Keefe has been a steadfast supporter in the IA Board's deliberation. He has emphasized that project costs and funding are dynamic and argued that having this in the books.
30 seconds.
Having this in the books as an allowed project sets the way to where we're trying to go. Commissioner Porter has asserted that we must place the welfare of people above all else, and that when people have to sleep on the ground, and more than that, above all else, that when people have to sleep on the ground.
Time has expired.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tara Boyder, followed by Reverend Sylvia Jones, then Jay Hedrick. Name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Tara Boyder. I reside at 3528 Clifton Drive, Tallahassee. I'm a member of CAJM, and I attend Fellowship Presbyterian Church. First, I'd like to express our appreciation for the leadership and support that Commissioners Maddox and Cummings have lent to this effort. While neither were able to attend our most recent Nehemiah Action Assembly, both have supported motions to move this amendment process forward. Commissioner Maddox provided us with essential insight into the blueprint domain. He helped us recognize the limitations of the economic development funding and the wisdom of investigating infrastructure funding as well. He made it clear that he does not favor diverting funding from existing commitments, and also expressed hesitation at creating a new project without identified funding. At the November IA board meeting, Maddox said this, I quote, "We have an opportunity here to really advance affordable housing in Leon County. It's only going to get worse." Indeed, CAJM recognizes that the opportunity presented by the proposed amendment is uncertain, both in magnitude and timing. But we urge all of you to embrace Byron Green's call to open the door to availing our community of opportunities that do emerge. Commissioner Cummings, you have made clear that you share CAJM's concern for the least of these, for the people in our community who are forced to make daily choices between paying rent and caring for their families. Their voices are often not heard in these deliberations. During the IA board meeting in November, you called your colleagues to action, and I quote what you said. As leaders in this community, we're accountable to the citizens in Leon County and Tallahassee. I don't believe that we can close our eyes, close our ears to the needs in this community. We as leaders in this community have to show that we are concerned about the plight of the least of these. We citizens hope all of you will heed Commissioner Cummings' call. Demonstrate your commitment to addressing this crisis by opening a path toward building a beloved community here in your beloved Tallahassee. Vote yes. Please vote yes to amend the Blueprint Interlocal Agreement and add Project 30. Thank you.
Next speaker is Reverend Sylvia Jones, followed by Jay Hedrick. Name and address for the record, please.
I am Reverend Sylvia Jones. I reside at 4250 Woodbridge Road in Tallahassee. I am recently retired AME pastor. I'm a member of Mount Zion AME Church, and I serve as one of the co-chairs of the CAJM Affordable Housing Committee. We've got to get started. We would like to conclude our remarks today by sharing what Commissioner Williams-Cox said at the November IA board meeting when she offered a friendly amendment to Commissioner Porter's motion to direct staff to prepare a formal project proposal. Commissioner Williams-Cox said, and I am reading this verbatim from the recording of that meeting, "There are things that are happening that have never happened before. Far be it from us to sit here and pretend that we don't see it happening. The time has come, and I think the voters would agree, because some of them are those who are in need. We need to be creative. We need to be innovative. We need to do some things that will help them meet the challenges of today." And then she continues saying, "I would like for us to focus on the large part of the pie, the infrastructure side, and figure out where can we scrape money to allocate for affordable housing. I would like to see us look at projects that might have a little money left over and see if we can't use some of those dollars to help us at least start to meet that need. I know projects are underway, but we've got to be efficient in those projects. We've got to get started," she said, "or we're never going to get there. We can talk about it and talk about it, but until we make a step forward, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and we've got to get there." We hope Commissioner Williams-Cox will lead the way today to move that the IA board vote to add the Affordable Rental Housing Land Acquisition Project to the interlocal agreement. We hope that these words she shared in November will inspire any of her reluctant colleagues to join her as we all work together to build the beloved community that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called upon us to create. Thank you.
Our next and final speaker is Jay Hedrick. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, ma'am. John Hedrick, 1551 Cristobal Drive here in Tallahassee. Distinguished government officials and members of the audience, I'm here as a member of First Presbyterian Church, who's also a member of CAJM. I'm most supportive of all the different commentary that's already happened. And I'll just add one thing that hasn't been said. One thing that hasn't been said is we already just took another hit to our housing stock less than a week ago. I think everyone knows what just happened. This is another reason why we need to get on with what we need to do with affordable housing. Thank you very much.
That was our final speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. White, do you have a presentation on this agenda item?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a very brief presentation that will be given by Director Autumn Calder.
I'll just jump right in. A little just reminder of where we've been with the Blueprint Board. Beginning last summer, the IA Board began the consideration of adding affordable housing land acquisition to the Blueprint program of work. And I just want to state that statutorily, the use of the infrastructure surtax funds is limited to the acquisition of land and cannot be used for construction of housing. Last February, the IA Board initiated the substantial amendment process to add affordable housing land acquisition as a Blueprint project. And today we're at the final step of this process. The IA Board has previously taken action to address affordable housing by revising the real estate policy to require consultation with city and county housing offices to determine whether Blueprint property could be suitable for affordable housing before it is declared surplus. And of course, the city and the county have a long history of programs, policies, and incentives making provision of affordable housing a very high priority and have dedicated millions of dollars to this effort. Adding a new project to the Blueprint Infrastructure Program requires a substantial amendment. No funding currently exists for this project, and this project would be added to the end of the previously approved projects list. There are two public hearings that are necessary in this process. The first one was held at the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, and at that CAC meeting, a motion was made to recommend approval of the substantial amendment. However, a substitute motion to provide comments to the IA Board passed, and the draft minutes are included as part of your agenda materials. Again, a supermajority vote of both the IA Board members who are county commissioners and the IA Board members who are city commissioners are required for the amendment to pass. The draft project description, which would guide the implementation of the project should the IA Board choose to approve the substantial amendment, is as follows. purchase of land for affordable housing. Funding to purchase land for mixed-income rental housing projects that include units for families with very low and extremely low incomes. This language would be added to our interlocal. And then finally, just the staff recommendation for this item is IA board.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. And we certainly want to thank all of the speakers that have come tonight to address this particular agenda item. I have Commissioner Proctor and then Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Commissioners. We've heard the plea of citizens on this matter for a while. I think I heard echoing, and I was very pleased to hear members reflect upon our sister commissioner, City Commission, both of them, their compassionate thoughts, indicating that we could not have citizens if we could help it on the ground, sleeping. I agree. We met, I believe last month out at Old West facility, and a whole lot of people out there in the desire. I think that Idris, your comments about what has happened in our community over the last week, within the last week, is indicative of compelling need, even greater, that our community has been added to an expanded tornado alley, it seems, now. Those things being said,
Commissioner Proctor, I apologize for interrupting you. As our process, you know, we get a motion before we do discussion, so I apologize.
I apologize, too, for not following. Option 2 is my motion, and that is that we conduct the second public hearing for the substantial amendment and adopt the proposed project description to add affordable housing land acquisition to the Blueprint Infrastructure Program.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Is there a second? Commissioner O'Keefe. Okay, you may continue. I apologize.
Those things said, this motion captures the heart as well as the glory of my feelings and the heart, and I believe the glory of those who have spoken so eloquently tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to everyone who's worked so hard on this. As I mentioned repeatedly, you're probably sick of hearing it, this has been something I've personally dealt with in housing insecurity, and a number of board members have in different ways. And so I appreciate this has not been a heavy lift, and this has been a heavy lift, and I appreciate all the advocates and KJM and all our board members for digging into the details on such an important issue and important change. I first want to acknowledge the efforts that have been made in the past and current programs for affordable housing by both the city and the county and Blueprint. I don't think we should ignore and not acknowledge those efforts. And those have been successful efforts. Unfortunately, why we're here today is because the market failure to provide sufficient affordable housing is beyond the efforts we've made, and that's no fault of those efforts. That's the market that we're in. We're not the only community facing that. The reason I like it being here in Blueprint is Blueprint projects, and especially Blueprint infrastructure projects, we've seen it over and over, have the opportunity to have a significantly bigger impact in our community than a typical project. And this issue calls for that. This is an opportunity for us to make a generational change that will impact affordable housing for our future citizens in a way that I think can be bigger than anything we've done. And then it will bring, with a big effort, it will bring even more affordable housing than just the units that would be part of this program, because sufficient increase in affordable unit supply can affect the market for other affordable units. And that's what we want to do, is we want to have a cascading effect in the market that doesn't take more funding. And I just encourage all of us to think about how rare this opportunity is that we have before us, and to not let it pass us up, to seize this opportunity to create a project that would allow us, should funding arrive, to be ready to make generational change that benefits our community and builds on our prior efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At a recent joint affordable housing workshop that we had, both the city and the county, there's one stat that I use a lot because it was so alarming. We need to find and develop 11,500 affordable housing units by 2045, on top of what we already have on the pipeline. That's an incredible challenge for us. The city and the county both have got many programs in place, a lot of resources that we're doing to try to address the problem. But I think most of us would admit it can't be enough. What I'm happy about is the Capital Area Justice Ministry has done a really good job doing its research, advocating for this issue with gusto, and I think it's been very effective. And at the Nehemiah Action event, I said I was committed to supporting this. I plan to. I'm going to vote yes for the motion. We have a big challenge ahead of us. There are communities throughout the entire nation that are trying to do the same thing in terms of building affordable housing and accommodating that dire need. This is going to be one arrow in our quiver to help us do that. So I'm proud to support the motion from Commissioner Proctor, and looking forward to finding money in the future. It's going to be tough for us to find the funds for this, but I think you've got a good group of people here that are committed to working with CADGM, working with the community to find those dollars. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too want to thank staff for their work on this, and of course to CADGM and everyone else. I can't presume to know how Commissioner Richardson would vote, but I do need to point out the obvious here, which is that we are missing members and there is a supermajority required. And so I think that I would feel more comfortable if we had all our members here to vote on this. And so I would like to make a substitute motion that we postpone this so that all members can be here, so that we can actually have everyone's voice weighing in on this.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
The substitute motion is to table this. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Matlow.
Madam Chair, point of information. Would we have to have a supermajority of the city commission as voted, or would we need merely a supermajority among the 4 who are present?
Madam Attorney, I believe it's those that are present, correct?
Yes. No. It's of the members who are city commissioners. It does not relate to whether or not they're present. And that's coming from the bylaws.
So we have one county commissioner that's not here and one city commissioner that's not here. So is that inhibitive of us moving forward with this?
It is up to the board to determine whether or not they want to. You have, for a substantial amendment to pass, you need 4 on the city side, 4 votes affirmatively on the city side, and 5 on the county. You have 5 county commissioners here, I believe. 6. So you do have that, and you have the possibility of a supermajority on the city side because you have 4 city commissioners here. So it's not an impossibility.
Okay, thank you, Madam Attorney. So is there further discussion, Commissioner Porter?
No, Madam Chair, I think, and I don't want to table it indefinitely, but I'd like to move the public hearing to notice it for our next Blueprint meeting.
Okay, and your motion was
That's the
seconded
motion.
by Commissioner Matlow. Okay, so I'll hear from you, Commissioner Matlow.
Madam Chair, if I could, Commissioner Matlow, just want to get on the record. Commissioner Richardson is out of the state on a family issue, and how we have the faith-based community here, I hope everybody will keep the family in their prayers. That's why he's not able to make it.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, just a note for this motion to table, there's no debate on that. It goes straight to vote and majority vote.
On point. It's not to
Okay, once the
table,
motion
it's
is
to
made, it goes
reschedule.
straight to vote?
I'm sorry?
Once the motion is made and second, it goes straight to vote. is what
If
you're
it's a
saying.
motion to take, is it not a motion?
It's not
to
a
Yeah,
take?
motion.
is that what you, that was the motion to
reschedule for
table
the
it,
next
am I
notice
correct?
meeting.
Commissioner Porter?
Then they can debate that.
Was that your motion, Commissioner
It
Porter?
was not to table it indefinitely, it was to postpone until our next Blueprint meeting.
Okay, so postpone it until the next meeting. Okay, let's hear from the attorney.
Madam Chair, the county is ready to vote now.
Okay, to postpone to a certain time, which is another portion of Robert's rules, another section, then debate is allowed.
Okay, thank you. So Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you know, we've been having this conversation for over a year now. This is the second public hearing. I do think with Commissioner Richardson's specific circumstances, it would make sense to postpone and allow him to have an opportunity. I know he was a supporter of it in the past. I don't know if the will has changed, but I do not feel confident it would move forward without Commissioner Richardson here today. And I think if any of us had an emergency that would prohibit us from attending, certainly one of the most important votes to me that we're making this year, we should do that. So that's why I support the motion on the table. And I do want to just speak to the underlying issue of, it was said earlier that this opens the door. This doesn't allocate any funding. What it does is it sets us up to have, you know, we can't build housing with this fund, but we can create a leveraging opportunity to work with the private sector, to work with individuals engaged in affordable housing, and try to identify a need that's not being addressed by anyone. The very low income and low income housing categories based on how much we have in our community. So again, I've been on the record. I continue to support this, but I think we should wait until September so everyone can be present for it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Matlow. What I'd like to do is call the substitute motion to postpone this vote. And if we can have a roll call vote.
And Madam Chair, is to postpone it until the next meeting, which is September
Postpone
5th.
until our next IA board meeting. Correct, Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Okay. And that will be our September meeting.
So as a matter,
Okay, Madam Clerk.
how would that come back? Would we come back, will we re-talk it? Would they have to come back with the same speeches, or would we just go straight to a vote? What?
If it's on the agenda, would it be the same posture?
Right, so
It would be pretty much-
it would be the same, the way the agenda is designed right now. It would be a public hearing portion. It would start at 5. But we would have 2 public hearings because we would have one on the budget and then this one for the substantial amendment for September. So it would be a long night.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Daley,
No.
Commissioner Matlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Porter,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Cox,
No.
Commissioner Caban,
No.
Commissioner Cummings,
No.
Commissioner Minor,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Keefe,
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor,
Unready?
Was that a no?
That's unready. I don't understand what no is, and I don't know what.
No to postpone it. No to postpone
Well, yes, I'm
it.
ready to vote tonight.
Okay, the vote is on the substitute motion to postpone the vote until September. So either yes to postpone it or no to postpone it.
Okay, I think what I heard the plea was a suggestion that it has a stronger probability of passing if we postpone it. So I want to give this, I don't want it to be aborted. I want to give it every chance to come to full maturation. So I support it. So that's a yes.
Okay,
To postpone.
so yes to postpone it.
Correct.
Okay.
and Commissioner Welch.
Is that everyone? Okay, it fails. Thank you. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me speak to retired Reverend Sylvia Jones out of Gadsden County, Mount Zion. thank you for reciting my words. I meant my words. I voted for staff to go and take a look. They did that. They came back and told us that there's no money available until 2039, possibly. Affordable housing is needed right now. And as someone mentioned, it's needed even more now since 3 tornadoes have come through here. I'm not willing to put all of my eggs in one basket and wait for 2039 for us to do what needs to be done. I'm encouraging Cajun and every church that you represent to join us in our efforts to acquire land and to help build for those who are in need. I'm ready to do that. But if we're going to wait till 2039 to see if there's any money left, then we might as well wait until 2040 and be at the top of the projects list for hopefully the next iteration of Blueprint dollars. The only difference is a year. It gives us time to work, to market in the community that we need to do that. 15 years from now is too long to wait for this crisis that we have. I don't want any of us to leave here tonight thinking that if this was to pass, that that's going to solve our problem. It is not. But we can go out here right now in the spirit of former President Jimmy Carter and help build these homes, Habitat for Humanity, and other organizations in our community that we can get together right now and begin to help and do some things right now. 15 years from now, there's going to be another generation of folks, another group of folks. But right now, we do have people sleeping on the ground. We do have people who need housing right now. People who had housing last week don't have housing this week. We can't wait until 2039 to see if there are any pennies left. So I believe that what we need to do is to begin to look and begin to encourage others to support another iteration of Blueprint in 2040 and make sure that affordable housing is on that list of projects that our residents will get to vote on. So tonight, I cannot support because I don't want to cripple us into thinking that we don't have anything to do except wait for some pennies in 2039. We need to go post haste and get some housing right now. And by the way, those 3 tornadoes took down some trees on some folks' houses. Those folks need help right now to make sure that they don't join the homeless. That tornado took down some trees that many of us don't want to take trees down. But guess what? Where my house is, where your house is, there used to be trees. And in order to solve this issue, we're going to have to make space. We're going to have to use available land. And we do not need to wait until 2039 to see if there's any money left at the bottom of the barrel to do that. We are already here today discussing the budget and about how the cost of doing the projects that we have are going up astronomically. So to sit here tonight and think that as the cost of doing projects is continuously going up, that we're going to have any money left in 2039, I believe that God can do all things. But I think that he also expects us to do what we can do and let him do the supernatural and let us do the natural. And right now, we need to get out here and do the natural ourselves. If each one of us who believe and want to help, if we would write a check, donate, roll up our sleeves, and join the efforts that are already going on, by 2039, we could have some additional homes, and then we will be at the top of the list for the next iteration of Blueprint and be able to fund it properly. That is where my thoughts are. That's where my mindset is. I don't want to wait for the scraps. I want to be at the top of the list so that we can fund it like we need to fund it, like we are the strongest the strongest economy in the United States, not like we're a impoverished country. So I wanted to explain because I needed to be clear, because I believe, I stick by my words, and you recited me exactly. And I did say that, and I mean that. But reality sets in. And 15 years from now, we need to have already done some things that we need to go out here and start doing today, tomorrow. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams-Cox. Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening on this all-important issue. My position has not changed since the last hearing, and I do not intend to support the motion on the table. That does not mean that affordable housing is not important to me. That does not take away from the work that we've done at the city or the county, and that does not mean that it will not remain a priority. In fact, Dr. Dahl, I appreciate you reminding me of my words, and yes, I'm very proud of the fact of bringing this item before the blueprint. But it was a study through the economic development dollars, and I know everybody understands, whether you agree or not, you understand the difference between the economic development funds and the infrastructure funds. And this is something that I do hold true. I was hoping that by bringing this before blueprint, that it would provide the opportunity through economic development with some flexibilities to truly be able to use that money for affordable housing. Unfortunately, the law came back and said we cannot do that. So then we looked at infrastructure. My concern is that when we start adding new projects, especially projects that are not funded, I think we're sending a false narrative to this community. We do not have to sit around and wait for funding to come to fund this project or this particular proposal be able to move forward. In fact, we need to continue to think outside the box. And just because one door may close doesn't mean they all do. And I stay committed to affordable housing and rental housing in this community. But my position has not changed. It was not approved by the voters as one of the infrastructure projects. It is different in my mind for Pinellas. I will go on the record right now that if there was a referendum in this community dedicated specifically to affordable housing and was brought to the community for that vote by referendum, I would support it. But unfortunately, it was not part of the blueprint referendum projects that was listed. So I just want you to know that I will not be supporting it tonight. That does not diminish my capacity or my interest in moving forward as a priority for affordable housing in this community.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little hurt this afternoon. I think I've heard all along from the body who's brought this forward that there was no great expectation of money. I think that they've articulated that there's not necessarily a lot of money in the bank. They've heard that. But I thought that what we were doing tonight is to create a new category by which blueprint monies could service. So this is a new element, and that's affordable housing. And that's what they were asking. It wasn't hands out for money, not a money grab, but a categorization move. And I think that if we set this as a category that consistent with Commissioner Williams-Cox's comments, that the next iteration of a sales tax, we won't have to include them. It's like the 14th Amendment. You know, people were former slaves. You don't have to make them citizens. You don't need a 14th Amendment. This establishes a category that in that next iteration is already there. The next body of people who sit around this table won't have to reconsider, can we have that? Commissioner Porter's desire that flesh and blood not sleep on the ground in the capital, say Florida, sales tax dollars abounding. I appreciate it. And I know that the last question, which we all may in similar measure here, that when I was hungry, did you feed me? Or when I was thirsty, did you give me drink? And when I was homeless, did you seek to provide shelter? Those considerations, and as we've done to the least, my understanding, is when we have done unto the Lord himself. So this is this lowers in my mind the moral bar for our community, and we may differ on what a moral bar is for our community, but when we ignore those who've fallen upon times that they don't have those things which each of us will report to tonight, comfortable dwelling. Then I recognize also, Commissioner, and you've heard it multiple times, Commissioner Cummings, that foxes have holes and birds have nests. And I'm aware that the Son of Man had not a place to lay his head, but we don't have to facilitate the citizens of our community having no place for their heads to lie. And I'd ask you to search your hearts. And I want to thank you, community of faith, for your efforts to come to your community leaders that we would take this vote. Unfortunately, we have a very high bar, even that we need 4 commissioners from the city and 5 from the county. Not even a simple majority could address this. But you know often, as I know, the difficulty, and I think that you know, and I can say this, that Ephesians 6:12 in particular didn't tell a lie, and you understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Commissioner
6:12 didn't tell a lie.
Officers,
Thank you. Commissioner Welch.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, as I have evolved on this issue, it's kind of similar to Commissioner Williams-Cox. When this first came to us, I said, hey, look, I'm willing to explore. I'm the same way with any of these ideas. I'm willing to explore them, but the details matter. And I said at the time I was very reluctant to support this, just generally speaking. Well, the details did not come back in a posture that would allow me to evolve in favor. So I, too, stand behind my position from the previous meeting, and I will reiterate briefly why that is, but it revolves mostly around this notion that we have obligations, and those obligations transcend time. They transcend individuals around this table. Different people will sit in these chairs over the life cycle of this program. And so y'all see how difficult it is for us, excuse me, to spend money already. We chew on that bone till midnight, trying to spend small amounts of money in here. And that's because it's a dynamic environment. And so my mission, since I've been on this board, or since we've gotten into carving things up and kind of moving things around, is to try and provide some stability. This entire idea hinges on hope. And I love hope. I appreciate hope. We talked about hope in my Bible study this week. But we, as policymakers, as pragmatic, objective policymakers, we got to think, we got to make decisions with our heart and with our head, or one or the other. And I would say that it's irresponsible of us as policymakers to say, oh, well, we're going to add a project where we have no ability to fund it. We're telling you we have no ability to fund it without changing projects that have already been approved by voters. This is not an approved project from voters. And so it creates a precedent that is a very slippery slope across all manner of interests and issues. And I don't think that's prudent of us as policymakers to do that. And so I don't want to create a false hope. I would rather we do what Commissioner Williams-Cox has said, and I fear for what Mayor Daley said, which is we do this and we think, oh my gosh, we feel great about ourselves. We've done something. We hadn't really done anything. We've postured ourselves in a way that makes us feel better. But we are limited by statute with what we can do with our money. We can't build one brick of affordable housing with this money. It is a multifaceted process to actually build one stick of affordable housing through this body. So I would rather, and I think this is the truly positive aspect of what has happened with the advocacy of CAJM, is you guys have brought it right to the surface. You've brought the issue right to the surface. It is as visceral to each of us now as it has ever been, and it was already something that we were aware of. And so maybe now we can look at actually impactful, not just hopeful ideas to solve what we all acknowledge is a real problem. All right? And whether that means taking this question to voters, finding another dedicated source of funding somewhere, redoubling our efforts at trying to draw down federal money, trying to do more projects like Orange Avenue or the Springfield apartments, which we deliberated on this week at the County Commission. I think that that is the way forward. I regrettably will not be able to support the motion for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. Commissioner O'Keefe, then Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think we're changing any votes tonight. And from the comments, it doesn't sound like this is going to pass. I'm still praying until the vote happens. And so I just want you to know that from my perspective, whether we pass this or not, we will continue to use every tool to build affordable housing in our toolbox. This would not be the only thing we would do, and this will not be the only place we will stop. We're also saying today there's no money today. Today is to put ink on a page. And when we vote on this, we're saying either, yes, we are willing to put ink on a page with no money attached yet to possibly help affordable housing as one of an unlimited number of tools, or to not be willing to put ink on a page with no money to it to possibly have a tool. When I woke up this morning, I was thinking about what am I going to feel like tomorrow if we succeed or if we fail. And I know you've been working on this a long time. I'm looking at the folks from CAJM who are here. My neck doesn't turn that far for those people. And however you feel tomorrow, I want you to know that your work matters to me, that you put in, and to a lot of people.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. Commissioner Porter, and then Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I, too, want to express my deep respect and appreciation for CAJM. The way that y'all have organized in this community is incredible, and I've learned so much, and I have deep, deep respect for all of your work. I want to say, because I want the record to reflect, although CAJM has not asked for funding, you know, I believe, that it is within our capacity to fund this if we wanted to. I see where this is going. I think we all do. But I am fully aware, as we all are, the voters voted on projects. But if there was nothing for us to do, then why are we here? Otherwise, the implementation, it would all just be technical that staff could manage. I believe we are here to lead and to respond when there are issues that call on us to respond. And I believe this is one of those issues. And I do think it's shameful that we have millions and millions of dollars for parks and all other things that are amazing amenities that I have supported that enhance our quality of life, but mean nothing to people who have nowhere to sleep, who can't contribute to our economy, who can't spend money to our penny sales tax to keep this going. I think that's shameful. I'm disappointed. There is more that we can do. I don't think anyone here thought that we were going to fix this problem by moving forward with a substantial amendment. CAJM has come to us at the city. I feel like y'all have been jerked around, frankly, but there are more creative solutions. This is not the only path forward. I'm looking forward to working with you on what those solutions are. I think all of us have taken responsibility personally to do what we can. And I agree that the faith community has a role, that our neighborhoods have a role, nonprofits have a role, but this is why we pay taxes. It's not everyone's job. It's not a church's job to build housing. That might be a difference of opinion, but that's not what I believe. I believe this is how we get involved. It's by paying taxes, it's by voting, it's by lobbying and advocating for issues. And so I don't see anything abnormal about what this request is to meet the moment that we're in. But I do think that you have my commitment as we move forward, regardless of the outcome tonight, that we're going to find a way to address this problem and meet the need at the level that it exists. Because I know that we are all tired. I am tired of getting emails. I get dozens of emails a week, literally, as I'm sure many of my colleagues do. People who are homeless, people who are about to be evicted, mothers, people who are college students. And this might not even be this isn't my ideal solution either, but doing nothing is not acceptable. And I just wanted to say that because I think it's disingenuous to say that, you know, we can't be doing more about this, or that we can't be doing it even as this body, because we can. And I believe as elected leaders, it is our job to respond to the needs of the moment, the needs of the community, because they are dire. And I've supported Columbia Gardens, Orange Avenue Apartments, and who makes $15 an hour as a food service worker, who was sex trafficked to this country years ago. She can't afford Columbia Gardens on what she makes. And that's clear in the research that y'all have done and what we know from staff already. So we have, with the resources, we have a generous community, and I look forward to continuing to work with all of you and all who are a part of this crisis and who thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Uncle Maddox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What I can say is I've enjoyed working with you all. We've had multiple meetings, and I sat down with you guys and I shot you straight. And I told you exactly where I thought we were going to be and what exactly I thought we would need to go to in order for you all to get to where you wanted to go. I said at last meeting I had a hard time voting in favor because I knew we were heading this direction. And even if we had passed today, there was no dedicated funding to it. And yes, Commissioner Porter's right, we could, but where are we taking it from? Now, out years, it could be increases, but then also increases in projects. I just think that this is, you guys came and asked for it, which was the beginning. I don't necessarily think this is there is a way for you to get there. Everybody around this table has said that they support the effort to try to deal with affordable housing. Everybody at this table has said that they believe that the voters have spoken on the project and that we have to respect that. And even our mayor and others have said that if there was a referendum of such that looked at affordable housing through tax dollars, maybe even through blueprint dollars, that we would implement that and support that. And that's exactly what I said last time. If you want to get there, I don't think anybody at this table, there's probably some, wants to jump out and get in front of the projects that we have without the voters of Leon County saying, in a majority, that yes, we would like for some money from the projects that we have already allocated money to go towards. So I think, I mean, if any direction, I think that's the direction you go. I also think that, that as we move down this road of trying to think about different ways of addressing affordable housing, don't just get stuck on the fact of what we're doing, what you all have asked us to do here. The Affordable Housing Committee, which we just met this week, think about different ways that we could look at the way we zone, the type of structures that we can have here, the different things that we can do to lower costs of building housing. There's a bunch of ways to get to where you're trying to go. Think about it holistically in that way. Even though if this doesn't happen today, again, it's worth advocating on from a holistic standpoint, rather than just, we wanted this, we didn't necessarily get it, and now we stop. So I would implore you guys to continue to advocate. Know that the people at this table care about the same issue that you care about. It's just, I think we have a strong respect for what the voters have said they wanted with the projects that we have. I respect you. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. And I think that's everybody, that all the commissioners that want to express, make their expression made on the record. Let me just add, I appreciate the Capital Area Justice Ministry, one of you all. Appreciate your advocacy and the time that you have put into requesting this particular initiative and asking, just going through the substantial amendment process. I know many of you all attended the other public hearings prior to today, and I know that your heart is in it. And I hope you recognize that from a board standpoint, our heart is in this as well. I think based on the discussions from the various members of this body, I think the fact that there's no funding available, and the fact that this was not listed as one of the projects approved by the voters, that most of the members on the commission feel that it's not feasible to add affordable housing as one of the projects. Even though it would be at the very bottom of the project, I just, of all the projects that Blueprint has on the books, I believe that it's worthwhile to add it as a project. I believe it would open the door to address the affordable housing crisis that we have here in Leon County right now. I think that to not include it as one of our projects is those that need affordable housing not having a seat at the table. Even though there's no funding available, I think that there are various avenues, if it's one of our projects, that this board could look at to fund affordable housing. And of course, the statute specifically says that this taxing body can only purchase property, cannot actually build affordable housing, but Blueprint authority to purchase land, purchase property. And what's envisioned, and if you look at other counties who have done that, is that property to leverage with developers as an incentive for inclusionary housing, to make more units available to low income and very low income. I just believe that the IA board could establish policy where it wouldn't take until 2039 to fund or set aside some funds for the purchase of land for affordable housing. And one item that came up tonight, there was a question about funding that becomes plus funds, surplus money. And I think the question was asked, do we have a written policy on how to use surplus funds? Well, the answer was, well, it just goes back to the next project, but we don't have a policy that says that. Well, I see that as an avenue where we could establish a policy that any project that under the project cost where there's surplus funds, we could establish a policy that human need is so important in the affordable housing area that any surplus funds could be directed toward an accumulation of funds so that land could be purchased for affordable housing and use that land instead of developers. I think that could be a win-win situation for our business community. I know if I'm in the business of building affordable housing, if I don't have to purchase the land and I can use the land for maybe 100 years lease, something similar to what I think the city has with Capital City Country Club, that's an incentive to build and set aside a certain amount of the units, a majority of the units for the low income and very, very low income. So I just disagree. I don't believe this, but my position is that if it's on the books, then we, as an elected body of county officials and city officials, we could address it. We could adopt policies where it wouldn't take 20 years to fund, to accumulate enough funds so that land could be purchased. But anyway, thank you all for coming tonight, for your time. I appreciate all the scrutiny and analysis from my various members of the IA board, and even those that has indicated they will not support the motion before the body. I think you can tell that every member of this body is very concerned about homelessness and about affordable housing and the fact that we need thousands and thousands of projected affordable housing units for the next 10, 20 years or so. So that's my spin on it. At this point, I will call for the motion, which is option 2. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. Commissioner Porter.
Thank you. I just have a quick question for staff. Is it typical for staff to make a recommendation to a citizen advisory committee that is against the will of the majority?
Did you understand the question?
When we make a recommendation to anybody, whether it's this body or any other body, it's based on our technical analysis of it, our financial analysis of it. So it's not a matter of like, oh, staff thinks that we should do this, or someone told us to make this recommendation. We do analyses. That's why we have the agenda materials, and our recommendations are based on that.
Thank you. And just one follow-up question then. So whose decision was it to make the recommendation against moving forward with this to the CAC? Who made that final decision?
That recommendation was the recommendation we've had up to that point.
Okay, and who had made every recommendation up to that point?
That was the Blueprint staff, kind of looking at everything together.
Through our agenda writing process, we have an agenda development policy, and it guides our agenda development. The CAC meetings, if an issue is brought up at a CAC meeting, it precedes the IA board meeting. So the majority of the IA board still hasn't been decided.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Porter. Okay, at this point, I will call for the vote. If we can have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk. The motion on the floor is option 2.
Mayor Daley,
No.
Commissioner Matlow, Commissioner Porter,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Cox,
No.
Commissioner Caban,
No.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox,
Yep.
Commissioner Minor, Commissioner O'Keefe,
Yes.
Commissioner Proctor,
Yes.
and Commissioner Welch.
Motion fails. There's no supermajority as required. There are 2 votes on the city side, the board of directors who are sitting city commissioners voting no. Requires 4 votes on the city side.
Okay, thank you. So the motion failed. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, having gone through that exercise, I would make the, like to make the motion that we began a list of potential projects for the next iteration of Blueprint, should there be one, that we include affordable housing on that list of proposed projects, since what we learned was that there was no funding available, and we know that if the voters vote to do Blueprint again, it will begin in 2040. So I would like to, of course, we'll be doing the work up until then, but I would that we add affordable housing to the proposed projects for the 2040 Blueprint, should the citizens agree to move forward with the Blueprint project.
Point of clarification.
Are you seconding the motion, Commissioner Porter?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No,
hold
Madam
on just a minute. We got a motion on the floor. Let me see if it's going to be seconded. Okay, it dies for lack of second. Okay, Commissioner Porter and then the mayor.
My point of clarification was, I mean, aren't we talking about something that's going to be 15 years from now?
That's the next, that's the earliest next iteration,
Okay.
because that would be the next iteration, should the voters agree to do that. And based on the information that we've received, there would be no funding available prior to 2039 because of the current projects that we have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cox. Thank you, Commissioner Porter. Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a bold idea. If it's something that county's willing to entertain, hear me out. If you look at the vote count, 5 of you at the county commission supported this. Now, Bob, when I was speaking, I looked over at you, and when I said I'd support it on the ballot, I saw you turn around and go, write that down. Make sure you get that. And then it just clicked. Why isn't it on the ballot? Hear me out. Do you have the language for the Pinellas for Penny? The ballot language? Yeah. I think the deadline for the supervisor of elections isn't until mid-June. You have a majority of the support of the county commission, which, by the way, it's not the city's jurisdiction. It is the county's jurisdiction, that are on the record in favor of this. Madam Chair, you could call a special meeting, properly advertise, to propose the ballot language to go on the November ballot for a penny for Pinellas and have it fully funded. Instead of talking about money 30 years from now, 20 years from now, how about now? And put, Commissioner O'Keefe, a referendum on the ballot. So you'd probably have to do 2 public hearings. I'm not the attorney, check with Chastity. But the chair has the power to call a special meeting. The administrator has the power to call a special meeting. You have a regularly scheduled meeting on June 11th, which I believe is still before the deadline. If the county is serious about moving forward to putting this on the ballot, you have the votes right now, Commissioner O'Keefe, Commissioner Proctor, Commissioner Minor, it would pass. This is exactly what I did with the Children's Services Council. Brought it up in June, had the public hearing, put it on the ballot. Now look, CAJM's going to have major responsibility because we can't spend public dollars on a political campaign. CAJM can come with the numbers, help out with the political campaign to help get it passed. That's how these penny sales tax referendums pass. You got to have an organization behind it. But right now, there are 5 county commissioners that are on the record in support of this. And I encourage you to have a serious conversation. It's not appropriate necessarily here because we don't have the jurisdiction, but you do have the time to be able to put something on the ballot for referendum in November if the commission is interested in entertaining that. And that would provide direct funding specifically for affordable housing, and you could statute, you could probably do it for acquisition, but you could also probably do it for what we have specifically with Blueprint. I'm just putting that out there in the spirit of continuously trying to instead of sitting around and beating up staff and beating each other up or whether we're going, let's keep the thought process going, and I think it's something to be considered. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mayor Daley, that's a good idea, a really good idea. I had a similar idea and spoke about it with county staff. And at that time, this was a couple months ago, we had a discussion that the county was at its max in terms of additional public dollars in. So the ballot initiative may be a moot point, but in lieu of what happened tonight, I'm willing to explore that further. Because even if we're only a $250,000, $500,000, or whatever, I mean, whatever way I want to do it, it could be something that is worthwhile. So my discussion with county staff was that we didn't have much wiggle room there, but based on this not moving forward, I think it's worth us taking a look at. So to my county commission colleagues, I do agree with the Mayor Daley's suggestion. I think it's something for us to explore and move forward on. Thank you, Mr. Daley. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. To that point, we don't have any more pennies left. So we couldn't make it an initiative, a penny ballot initiative like they have in Pinellas. What I had talked to you guys about is we can't do any of that. We're totally maxed. What I had talked to you guys about is if we're saying here that the problem that we have is that the voters haven't spoken on us using Blueprint money to do what you're trying to do. Well, the obvious answer is to have the voters speak towards an initiative that would say that we would use some percentage of Blueprint monies to do it, because that's the only pennies that we got. Now, I guess we could explore the idea of having a million, dedicating a certain amount of millage if we can do that. I don't know if we can, but there is a desire for us all to try to fix the problem. I appreciate your commitment and your conversation around seeing if there's something there. I'm also in on it if we can figure it out. But I do think it's an important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To your point, page 10 of our previous item, item number I think B, our staff told us that their projected sales tax revenue surplus was programmed into the infrastructure CIP, leaving an available balance of $749,159, which is recommended for allocation to the CC project for implementation of the Midtown placemaking project. Right there, stood up moments ago, indicates that surplus. And to my question earlier today, is this a discretionary matter? The mayor quickly, I think staff quickly agreed that it simply rose to the next item of priority. But there is no rule, there's no policy guidance that allows it to do so. It's just tradition. So we had $749,000 reported as surplus there on page 10. Then over on page 13, I'm sorry, page 11 of 13, it was reported to us that there was a remaining budgetary fund balance, Office of Economic Vitality Operating Fund, at $1,500,607.96. And during the FY224 budget development, $700,000 of the projected sales tax revenue surplus programmed to OEVCIP, leaving available balance of $800,608 for OEV, which is recommended for allocation to the FOLF. And I don't know if that's a clean word or a bad word, but what I'm trying to emphasize is that we have surplus down to us, but they're going on and making a decision on what to do with the money and recommending
Commissioner
So
Proctor,
we
let-
got money.
Let me just stop you real fast and do this. We've already voted on that motion, so let me just,
We got surplus.
let me just declare the public hearing. And so what you're saying is very appropriate for our board directors discussion. Okay. So this ends our public hearing. Thank you all so much for coming.
Do we have a motion on either? We turned down option two, and it failed.
Right.
So we just leave it on a failed, and
Option two failed, so it didn't pass. The substantial amendment did not pass.
good.
Right. So we're now under the director's discussion, Commissioner Proctor. Okay, Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask staff or ask the board if we could bring back the staff analysis on the 3D printing
Second.
presentation. The 3D printing presentation at the beginning, the non-competitive, can we have, I'd like to ask staff, make a motion to ask staff to analyze that project.
By Commissioner Porter.
Discussion, Madam Chair.
There is discussion from.
Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the motion. I support the motion, but I do, and I brought this up over the course of years, this process we have laid out for this fund where people come pitch us for 3 minutes with no background and it's the only way to move forward, I don't think is good policy. I don't think it's conducive for people being able to present. I mean, there's no back and forth. We don't ask questions. Get past that first hurdle to even get to the point where you ask questions to be a board vote to me is frankly a little bit ludicrous. There was another presenter last meeting as well. I don't even remember their proposal, but since the meeting adjourned, they didn't get an opportunity. So I'm going to support the motion today, but we need to think about how we accept these proposals and what type of vetting and policy applications we want in advance. Maybe create a certain section in our meetings where that we can get the documentation ahead of the meeting and review it before we move it to the next step. Because I mean, if 10 people came in with 10 different things and they only spoke for 3 minutes, I would have no idea what's valuable. I've seen the work the lights have done in the community, so I do want to see more information. I just wanted to put that on the record of.
There was a motion to send that proposal for analysis to staff. Was that?
Yeah, it's just the same process we followed, Madam Chair, all along. And I would say that I think it was the lights who waited at the last meeting. So yeah, I don't disagree with you in the big picture, Commissioner Matlow, but I mean, I think that I met with the lights privately. I assume they've met with a lot of you. I would assume that when staff comes back with that information, that's when I weigh it.
Sure. I'm supporting the motion on the table. I agree with you. In good government, this isn't good government, a 3-minute pitch with no back and forth to get moved forward, because there's no way for us to really have the information to vet it. And if we were going to reject them, what metric are we really using? Is the point I'm making. I'll bring that up at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Matlow.
Madam Chair, on point.
Yeah, Commissioner.
On point, Commissioner Matlow, this, and I will support it as well. I think it is incumbent upon the individual who wants our support to meet with us, to share their projects, and that's what I've experienced, where folks who want my support for their project, that they'll come and they're planning to come talk to us about, they schedule a time to meet with me to help me understand it, so when it comes here, it's not the first time I've heard about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's my understanding that when folks want to pitch a project, they get with us, and then it takes a commissioner to bring it forward. And I'm looking out at staff. It takes a commissioner to bring it forward to make the motion for it to then, if it passes, to go through the paces. Because if it doesn't go through the paces to be scored, it may not be. It won't get to where it needs to get to. So there is a process, and it's worked. I guess I'm having some concerns about when we say what's not good government and what's this, and so what have we been doing by following these now that we're now declaring that what we've been doing ain't good government? And I just think that we need to understand what the process is, review it, and if we need to tweak it, but let's not just make a generalization that what we've been doing ain't good government, because this is what we've been doing, what's been in place since, this interlocal agreement been in place since 2015, right? As well as the policies and procedures. So I'm just saying there is a process for anybody who's listening. And this is what I understood the process to be.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner William Cox. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My wife, Jessica Leminer, has previously served as Kendra and James Light's real estate agent for the first 3D printed house and their own personal home. So currently there's no business pending between my wife and the Lights, but there is a reasonable expectation that the 3D printed properties manufactured with the help of this investment might then be sold by my wife. Thus, I believe I have a voting conflict based on the likelihood of my wife's real estate business benefiting as a result of this project, and I will recuse myself from this vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for making that disclosure, Commissioner Minor. Well, no, we've got a motion on the floor. We've got a motion on the floor right now. Okay. Commissioner Matlow, and then we're going to vote on the motion to move that proposal forward to staff to bring back an agenda item.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I would just recommend if the process is to contact and set up individual meetings with each commissioner to present a project, we should put that on the website so everybody is playing the same playing fields. After the motion, I'd like to make a motion for the other project that was presented by the two young women. Frankly, I don't remember what it was because it was a 3-minute presentation, and that's kind of my underlying point, but let's get that vetted as well.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
but we already have a motion on the floor. Did you say you made a motion?
I will after.
Afterwards?
I might-
Okay,
yep.
all right. The 3D printing is what's before us right now. All those in favor of sending it to staff on agenda item to come back, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none. Okay. All right, Commissioner Minor. Oh, with Commissioner Minor recusing himself. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Commissioner Caban. Oh, no, that's your cup. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. Okay, Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I want to give credit to the county for taking the lead on disaster recovery. I think it was a great first step. When COVID struck in 2020, we set up the CEDAR program to help individuals or small businesses explicitly impacted
Okay,
by
Commissioner
the COVID disaster.
Matlow, let me say this too. I understand that the federal authorities are in town, FEMA, to explore and what have you, and I don't want us to inhibit any relief that they might give to our taxpayers, to the citizens. So I think it might be best if we stay away from that, and I'm not sure if I need a motion. And I agree with you. I commend everybody, but if we're going to go in the direction maybe providing something, it might inhibit what the federal government does. And I understand too, individuals that have worked with FEMA, if any local relief is provided financially, in many instances, the feds deduct that from what they would otherwise do. So I just don't want us to get too close, okay?
Is that the county's response as well from the $1 million that the county allocated?
Well, that wasn't raised, and perhaps we might have taken a step too soon. I'm hoping it doesn't adversely affect any of our county residents, but I just want us to be cautious tonight, and let's just not get too far into that.
Sure.
So that we won't adversely affect what our citizens might be able to recover from the federal government.
Sure, yeah, no,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. I do think a small business program for immediate relief, I mean, that was the nature not to cover the massive expenses. I mean, we have businesses in our community facing $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 worth of either damage or loss of business. What we did for the CEDAR program was really targeted small amounts between $1,500 and $5,000. We put $1 million cap on it, and it moved much more to get people who needed it, whose businesses were being threatened in the moment. So that's why I believe that in the county excluded inside the city limits, and the city can take action as well. But I do think a similar program We have $6.5 million as of April 20th. In our grants account, $500,000 to $1 million would be reasonable. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner
Madam Chair,
Matlow. Yes, sir.
I move adjournment, please.
Is there a second? Thank you. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All those in favor? Say that again.
This is going to be the second Blueprint meeting in a row that we've cut abruptly. We still have discussion items to talk about, right? I mean, I've got things, I've been waiting all night to talk about two
Okay,
things.
Commissioner Minor. Okay. We've got a motion to adjourn and a second, so we can have discussion, Commissioner Minor. So go ahead.
On the motion.
On the motion. I hope you'll vote against moving to adjourn. I don't want this to be the second Blueprint meeting in a row where we have abruptly canceled business, the people's business, to go home. Vote no on the motion. Let's spend another 10, 15 minutes here. I've been waiting patiently to talk about two important things I want to bring up to you. So please vote no on the motion.
Madam Chair, on point.
Commissioner Cobain.
Commissioner Proctor, will you withdraw your motion to adjourn? In defense of Commissioner Minor, last meeting, he had business to discuss and we lost quorum. I think it would be very respectful to our colleague, your motion to adjourn and hear him out.
Madam Chair,
If you'll withdraw it.
my colleagues desire me to withdraw. I'll withdraw. And colleagues, if as I withdraw this motion,
Thank you.
please,
Who withdrew this? I
your
mean,
good
who made
love
the
as I.
second? Will you withdraw your second, Mr. Mayor, and give us a couple of minutes because we don't want to inhibit discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. I'll be as quick as I can. You know, and Commissioner Proctor, you spoke the most all night, and now you're cutting the rest of us off.
His mama calling him.
All right, good to see you, sir.
Got to go check on mom.
Commissioner Minor,
All right, thank you.
we still have a quorum, right? We still have a quorum.
Listen, on May 10th, we had hurricanes that devastated the community. I want to thank the City of Tallahassee Utilities who worked nonstop to get things back up and running. Our county staff did an incredible job. I mean, it was a community effort. Everybody pitched in. Really want to thank people for that. In addition to the devastated neighborhoods and businesses, we have another community emergency. Last Friday afternoon, I visited Railroad Square and saw the devastation of the Art District. I think many of you probably saw the same thing. Railroad Square, as you know, contains shops, restaurants. It's about 100 units across 8 acres. And a sizable portion of it was destroyed Friday morning. I believe that without local government support, the Art District will not survive, certainly not with its current footprint. What we need as a community to do is think about options that we can pitch in to save the Art District. Lots of things on the table. You know, we could do a ground lease to keep things running. We could even possibly put the Art District as a Blueprint 2040 project with that ground lease funding serving as the gap until it becomes a Blueprint project for the next cycle. We could figure out where we can find from wherever to whether it's Southside Frenchtown CRA, whether it's our Future Opportunity Leverage Fund, Blueprint, to purchase all or a portion of the land with installment payments or bonding. Basically, we have to work to save the Art District because the clock is ticking. What I'd like to do is have a motion to authorize Blueprint staff to provide technical expertise to the owners of the Railroad Square Art District and, if requested, to participate actively in discussions with the Southside Frenchtown CRA, if they ask for it, and other relevant entities in efforts to preserve the Railroad Art District. So that's my motion.
Second.
Second.
Commissioner
I
Porter.
seconded it.
Mayor.
Yeah, Commissioner Minor, I can tell you right now that I spoke to the owners yesterday. And knowing basically fair market value of what the property is, the CRA does not have the money for acquisition, period. I just want to make sure that that's up front before we send staff to talking to it. There is not enough money in the CRA to do that, nor is it all owned by one individual family. There are actually 3 different private entities that own the land out there. That needs to be kept in consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams-Cox.
And I want to, I had a conversation with Adam yesterday, and I'm wholeheartedly, I support that we do need to help the art community. Our community is better because we do have arts along with all the other things that we have. And I want us to not think quickly about what we can do and what should be done. And I shared with him that in November, I was at National League of Cities in Atlanta, and the mayor's office has a public art section that they actually here in the city of Atlanta. Also, they got you know, some on us 3 staff to send them out into the war to do some, try to figure out what we can do to, and we need to think about that. I believe that they're great at what they do. We throw them in, come back and tell us what the truth, and then we don't own it. So is Blueprint staff, why not folks from the advisory who have an eye or concern reimagine what we can do to help keep the in the community?
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Let me just call on Commissioner, then Commissioner Caban. Individuals that's a more money than we have. They're in town, damaging adversely any individual by what we body do it right at sense of stating, and I know we help, but I just want us to be cautious. I don't want us that then good. Commissioner Porter.
I support the Commissioner Minor for bringing. Just gives us the information that to do further discussion with COCA. I know ADOCA, so they're already coming to get conversations about what are in options, and we're not talking about funding or anything that would with or other opportunities. We're just conversation and proposal assistance. So I'm fully supporting bringing this forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Caban.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It sounds like that hasn't been conveyed to us on Tuesday. So how help with businesses? How does that hurt us from FEMA? That's that wasn't brought up by the meeting. I'll get more information from that.
And I'm going to ask this that.
As we're going through the, Commissioner McDaniel's assessment with the document in order to federal resource. Any money governments contribute that relief effort could send a message that the amount requested is we don't need it all per se. It could hurt us. It could count against us. Not that it will, but it could, especially when it comes to reimbursements. It's duplication of services. Basically, the federal government looks at us and say, y'all can handle this on the local level, so we don't need to reimburse you per se.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have a follow-up, Commissioner Caban?
Yes, ma'am. So this is just Christian Caban's opinion. I think that there's some businesses and there's some residents and there's some parts of town that have the ability to wait for FEMA money to come in, right? And I think that there are some people locally that need immediate assistance and they're on the verge of needing help. And so for me, that's good information to have, Mr. Mayor. I also just don't want that to like inhibit us as a board from also being able to step in and help quickly. That's kind of my opinion.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I will close. This is the last thing I'm going to say about this, Commissioner. I am solely focused as the mayor and to work with Kevin Guthrie's at the state. We're here, regional administrator who I spoke with today, intergovernmental affairs with the White House who I spoke with today, intergovernmental affairs with the Vice President's office, intergovernmental affairs with Homeland Security to maximize every single dollar that we possibly can bring down to the community and do it in a very expedited manner as quickly as we possibly can. And I do think that the FEMA teams that have been on the ground, and I know the county's been working with them as well, have done a tremendous job. They are to get the data, to get the numbers. I know the county's working hard, the city's working hard, working in conjunction with Florida State and FAMU as well to get all the data as quickly as we can into the FEMA system to move forward. And that is my sole concentration, so we can maximize, hopefully, all the federal resources we possibly can bring down.
Thank you for the info. So does that, may I respond, Madam Chair? Because I'm just a genuine question. So was the feedback that they had that we should slow down and not do anything or not step in locally, or what? Like, what is their opinion on us providing support locally?
I wasn't at the commission meeting. I didn't see the discussion. I encourage you to work directly with Kevin Peters. We're trying to make sure that anybody that has any damage in this community, register it through the EOC, through the proper channels and everything, so we can make sure that it's all documented, so that we can move forward together as a community as quickly as we possibly can for the federal response to come in.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Caban. And then the motion on the floor is for an assessment. We are asking Blueprint staff to go to that area and do an assessment and assist. Mr. White said that is
Madam Chair,
something they can do. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not even that. Rather to provide their technical expertise. And as Commissioner Williams-Cox had suggested getting the arts community together, they're already together. They've been working on this a lot. COCA has been spearheading this. They've been talking to Railroad Square. They've been talking to all the nonprofits that were affected. They're doing an itemized list of all the damages. So that's taking place now.
Okay.
What this motion asks for us to do is to provide the technical expertise, the specialized expertise that our Blueprint staff have to help them navigate through the potential options that might exist out there. I don't want to speak for the owners, and you're correct in that, 90%, not all of Railroad Square is owned by one family. 90% of it, though, is. And so that's really what I'm talking about, is having our Blueprint staff who have particular expertise in community enhancement and in development of community amenities or the protection thereof, to meet with them and talk with them about what possible options might exist. I know the CRA doesn't have enough money for a land purchase. Blueprint doesn't have enough money for a land purchase. There might be ways where we can blend different combinations of things through a ground lease over years to keep things running for a while until we can find other sources. What's likely to happen if we do nothing is the owners will do what is in their full right to do, which is to answer the calls that they're getting about other offers for that land. And so they may have to answer those calls. I mean, especially after Friday morning storm, they've got few options. What I'd like our Blueprint staff to do is help them identify options that exist that they may not have thought of, or help them take the options they've already been working on, which they've done extensive work on, to figure out where they might find opportunities to put those into play. That's what I'm asking for. I would hate to have us as a community not do anything and then see the art district get not just decimated physically from what happened last Friday, but basically taken away from us and it'll never come back. So if there's a way we can protect and preserve it now, even just limping along where it's viable, but limping along until we have a future revenue source, Blueprint 2040, for example, or whatever, I think it's worth us trying to fight to protect the art district. So I hope you'll vote for the motion to support it.
Commissioner Minor, with the chair out of the room, I got just a question. What is it that we expect Blueprint staff, technical experience that they would take to this project that would not come from the city or the county as opposed to Blueprint? Because, you know, we've given Blueprint staff plenty of their regular work to do. But what I want to support it, but I don't want to set our staff up for failure because they're trying to do something that is out of what their norm is. But city and county, you know, plan and design, development, all that kind of stuff, why would that not be in one of those governments?
Commissioner Williams-Cox, I have full confidence in our Blueprint staff. I don't think they would fail at this. I think it's mainly them providing the expertise that they've been able to garner over years of work on community development activities. I came here because we don't have much time. And this is also a body that is comprised of city commissioners and county commissioners, and this is a community amenity. Our staff are right here, right now. We can make the decision and give them the ability to reach out to the owners tomorrow, which I think is necessary. We don't have a lot of time to work on this. So I've had discussions with COCA. I've had discussions with the owners. The more time we have to figure out different options and follow those options through, I think is critical. I came here because I've been talking with Blueprint staff about this, and it seems to me to be the best venue to do it.
Okay, all right. I don't remember which one was first. Okay, Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the motion. I do need to just put on the record, I don't have any financial interest in Railroad Square. One of my companies does lease space in a separate building that has common ownership. Tallahassee Ethics Code requires a disclosure, but it doesn't require.
Okay, Commissioner Maddox.
Madam Chair?
Oh.
The director would like to.
Just a clarifying question for
Just
Commissioner
a
Minor.
Okay.
point of
You want to do it now?
If it's okay, because it might help with some of the
ahead.
conversation. I think if we're talking about some of the businesses, whether it's art-oriented or otherwise in Railroad Square, the Office of Economic Vitality offers technical assistance to any kind of businesses. That's sometimes pointing them in the direction of other resources, that's sometimes helping them sit down and look at a business plan, or kind of understanding and providing technical assistance on how to continue your business, grow your business, expand it, potentially even recover from a disaster sort of thing. If we're talking about technical assistance from the Office of Economic Vitality, for example, we don't necessarily need a motion for that. That's just something that we can provide, and we would be happy to do so. Blueprint might be a little bit different in terms of infrastructure because we're usually working on large-scale projects. Of course, if someone comes in and they just want to meet with us and talk to us, we're always open to the public and interact with the public on a regular basis. But in terms of proactively offering technical assistance, that's just kind of what OEB does.
That's kind of the question I had. I think if they just came to staff, if they reached out to staff and said, hey, can you guys sit with us and give us options, they would, I'm pretty sure you guys wouldn't just say, no, we can't do that without direction from the board. I think you got to make it plain. If you're asking for us to tell staff to go out and see if we can work out a deal with them to try to see if we could buy the land or own, but if it's just, we're just giving staff direction, hey, go over there and talk to them and see if you can come up with some ideas with them on how to salvage the situation to where they don't feel like they have to sell. I think that's not even a motion. That's just you board direction saying, hey, staff, would you go over there and give them a call. So if that's the direction you want to go in, and that's that. But if you're trying to say, hey, you know, I want us to go over there and see if we could work out something to where maybe we could own the land, because you mentioned a long-term land lease, stuff like that, then I think that's a whole different conversation. And let me say, I mean, if you think about exactly where Railroad Square is within our community, with the location of it, and the structures around it, and even how it fits into the grand scheme of what we're trying to do, I mean, hey, I ain't trying to say it ain't valuable, but it is valuable. I mean, but that's why I was wondering. I was wanting more clarification if you were trying to.
Yeah, Madam Chair. It's a little bit of that. It's basically taking a look at where local government could possibly pitch in through various different means. You know, perhaps we're not directing them to go forth and negotiate something. But listen, as you said, the property itself is incredibly valuable. We're never going to have that property if we lose it, it's never coming back. And right now, it is the cultural centerpiece, arguably, of Tallahassee. You know, in terms of people coming down for First Friday, for, you know, performances, I mean, the arts exists there. If we lose it, it's gone forever. And so I think it's worth us to have a motion here, no financial impact, to ask our staff, who are incredibly well qualified, to take a look at where possible sources of funding might come from now and in the coming years, maybe blending different sources together, not committing to doing anything, but helping them come up with different options. I think, for the sake of the Art District, to ask our staff to do that is a worthy request from us to them.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Minor. That's the motion on the floor. If no other comments, we'll call for the vote.
I think it's so ambiguous. I think for me is, if he wants to go buy it, just say he wants to go buy it. Like, if they're looking to sell to people and you want us to consider to see if they want to sell it to us, even the city, the county, like we got our tourism center right there. I mean, it's just, I think, make it plain. If he wants to go buy it, say he wants to go buy it. Or if you want us to see if we could go negotiate with them, then that makes it more plain for me to understand. Even if we're going to buy it and create an arts district within it, just, to me, right now, it's just ambiguous. I don't know what we're asking staff to do. Are we approaching them to see if they're willing to entertain us? Are they going to make a proposal to us? Make it a little more plain for me.
Commissioner Maddox, we just had the storm Friday.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is all in flux. You know, if you're looking for certainty, you're not going to find it, you know, after a storm that happened on Friday afternoon, right? We're trying to do the first step. We're trying to get the first step toward a discussion with them. It could be up a point. Let's say our staff get together. They are able to identify something where there's a ground lease with installment payments, you know, and there's something that if local government were to pitch in a portion of it through different sources, maybe that's something that we could do for a few years until we figure out something in more detail. That is a viable plan. It could be. I just don't know. You know, and rather than let this go until the next blueprint meeting or have one county government or city government try to take it on, I mean, this is, I think, the venue for us to take a look at it. Guys, I'm asking staff to spend some time, talk with the owners, trying to figure out what options might exist on the table. Try to find what possible revenue sources we might have from a local government perspective to have a portion of this that might sustain it for a few years. You know, I don't know, we probably don't have enough money to buy even a portion of the land, but maybe we can do a ground lease. The owners are willing to work with us in a way to save that art district. And so, yes, it's ambiguous. I know. But that's why I'm asking staff, I'm asking you all to give us the ability for staff simply to talk with them about and provide them with different options that they can think about, and then we go from there. Isn't that worth?
Thank you, Commissioner Minor, Commissioner Maddox. Okay, let's do it this way. And I've talked to Mr. White. He said the staff is certainly qualified and willing. Do you have any questions about the motion on the floor, Mr. White? If some concern about ambiguity, but you've indicated your staff is qualified and able to do what's being raised by Commissioner. A lot of it is, this is new, 7 days into the tornado, but we want to do what we can. So do you have any question?
Madam Chair, I think it just needs to be clear in the motion that what Commissioner Minor is asking and what, if this passes, if the board decides to pass it, it needs to be functions within the scope of OEV's mission, what they normally do. It's great that you have confidence in the staff. We certainly do appreciate that. But it's a small staff, and they do have defined roles already, including MWSBE, business development. So for clarity, I think this should be limited to the work that's within the scope of their current function.
Would you add that, please?
With respect, Ms. Dawson, I'd like to have it include Artie as well. And Autumn if she's one. So, I'd like to go beyond the scope of OEV, have Artie and/or Autumn there to provide expertise.
The scope of a blueprint then is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, going beyond OEV, but also including the
Okay.
expertise provided by our infrastructure team.
Absolutely.
That still doesn't address what she's asking for the specificity. How about this? What about if you just said that our staff approach Railroad Square to discuss with them different options that they would have in approaching us for partnership and funding to try to save the Railroad Square district. That way, it gives them direction to say, hey, we're going to go to them. We're going to sit down and talk to them, give them different options of things we can do for them. That if they came to ask us for funding, it would be something that falls within the realm of what we could do with Blueprint.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
That's basically what, I don't think we have to spell out every ABC. I think that's basically what he's saying. That's what he's saying. Okay? That's basically what he's saying. Okay? All right, I'm going to call for the vote. Commissioner Minor, Commissioner Maddox, I'm going to call for the vote on the motion. All those in favor, I think we can do it by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? The mayor. Okay, the mayor, one opposition. So it passed, am I correct? Without a roll call, you voted. Yeah, okay. So it's one opposition. Okay, thank you so much. Now, you said you had a couple of items, Commissioner Minor. Are you done?
Let me go ahead. I had another thing real quickly, but I think I'll wait till the next meeting on this.
Okay, thank you
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody, for your support.
Now, remember, you decided to wait.
Madam Chair, motion to adjourn.
Okay, Commissioner Caban, is your...
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion to adjourn. Okay, is there a second?
There is.
All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposes? Anybody want to stay here? I don't think so.